City.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Live on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SB Live. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Phils win again. 10-run rule last night. Not quite, but they put up an 11 spot to beat the Texas Rangers. They win another series. It's a historic start. Now we're starting to talk about the 0-1 Mariners and the 116-win team they had. By the way, Phils are down 1-0 right now. Zach Wheeler getting the start for the Phillies. They got a little bit of a late start today because of the rain delay. I'm imagining the Rangers hit a home run. Is that what happened?
Adolis Garcia hit a bomb.
Okay.
To left field.
Well, Wheeler gets the start, and let's get you quickly the starting lineup tonight. It is brought to you by Clark's Moving and Storage. This afternoon's game, Phillies going for the sweep. It's Schwarber, Realmuto, Harper, Bohm, Castellanos, Stott, Sosa, Merrifield, and Pache. And you take a look at quick little lineup there. Castellanos in the 5-hole. Stott bumps down to 6. Sosa is at short. Merrifield's in left. Pache's in right. In center. That's because they have a left-handed pitcher going today. So you have Merrifield, you have Pache, both those guys right-handed bats. No Marsh in the lineup today. So that's the Phillies lineup today, presented by Clark's Moving and Storage. Last night, I want to quickly go back to that game because it was a offensive explosion for the Phillies last night. And what is it about the Phillies lineup last night that kind of stood out to me? Well, there's a couple things as I jot down some of the notes by today. You got Bryce Harper. You got Sosa. You got Realmuto. Those guys are going to get the headlines because they all went yard last night. But what I like last night, too, is other than, I believe, Nick Castellanos, and more on him coming up, everybody in the lineup got on base. I want to say Rojas probably. Yeah, Rojas got it because he scored a run last night. I think, and Castellanos scored 3 runs last night. But he's the only guy that didn't get a hit last night, was Castellanos. He's down to 200. But the rest of the lineup, Realmuto, 2 hits. Harper, Bohm, Stott, Marsh, Sosa with 3 RBI. Realmuto with 3 RBI. Bohm with 2 more RBI. He had a double and 2 RBI last night. I mean, just up and down the lineup, they produced in the game last night. And they did it, coming from behind. They're down 2-0. Then they scored 2. Then they scored 3. Then it's 6. And then they get that 4 spot in that 6th inning. And that 6th inning was really, the game was kind of in play here. And that 6th inning with Realmuto, knocking in the bottom of the lineup because Castellanos got on base, Rojas got on base, Realmuto makes it 8-3, and then Bohm with that double. That was a Bohm bomb to double to center field. That just puts the game away. 10-3 demoralizes you, and that lineup just kept coming after you. The home run that Realmuto hit in the 3rd, that gave him the lead. Then Sosa in the 4th, he homers. I mean, the offense has just been relentless, and I got to be honest, I don't think we've hit the peak. Well, come on. I don't think anybody thinks that we've hit the peak of the offense yet, right? Nobody thinks that we've hit the peak of the offense. So it's been a lot of fun. But one of the things that Rob Thompson, look, this is why I think, if you're a Phillies fan, you're crazy to not like Rob Thompson as the manager of this team. His personality is the perfect personality for this team. You don't win in baseball because you have some X and O genius. That's not how baseball teams win. You win because of the culture and the personality of the managers. These great managers are great personalities. They know how to manage the personalities. They know how to handle all of the stuff that comes with being the manager of a really good team. This team's record with Rob Thompson is just exceptional. But he's the perfect guy for this team. He is the steady Eddie guy. He's not too high. He's not too low. He's asked last night, hey, your team's off to this start, and, you got to start talking about it. And he looked at the guy asking the question and basically said, what do those teams do? He was asked about that it's the best 50-game start in baseball since Seattle in 2001.
Right.
And he said, what do they do? And he was asked that question, and he understood. The Mariners did not win the World Series that year. They started 38-12. And Thompson's answer is the perfect answer for what this season's all about. It is all about the big picture. I said it all the way back in February. When I went to spring training, I said, for me, this season is all about the big picture. Everything is big picture, and it's winning the World Series. They have the best 50-game record in baseball. Sadly, that doesn't matter if you don't win the World Series. But I do think you can compartmentalize the difference here, which is having a great regular season as a fan and just taking it all in and enjoying it, and being so pretentious that regular season success is basically you put your nose up at. Like, you're allowed to enjoy a great regular season, say, look, you know what? That summer of 2024 was such a blast, going to Citizens Bank Park and having a lot of fun. And look, that's not what teams are remembered by, but fans will remember. You remember the summer of 93. You didn't win a World Series that year, but you're allowed to go along for the ride. This team is taking you on a tremendous ride, man. And they're just the 26th team in National League history to win at least 36 games in the first 50. The Phillies have never been better than 35-15. They are 36-14 right now. This is a team that goes back to 1883. I have a feeling that nobody in the listening audience was alive for the 1883 Fightins. They won their fifth straight game, 17 of 20. When you go to Citizens Bank Park, they have won 17 of 19 games at Citizens Bank Park. And I think that's one thing we have to acknowledge, is that the manager of this team is just the perfect temperament for what this team is trying to accomplish. That is what my takeaway was from last night's game. They pound out the offense. I gave them praise. The pitching, I thought Walker was iffy last night. Wasn't all that impressed with his outing. But it was a typical Taijuan Walker. He kind of got into trouble early, gave up the early run, then he gave up another run. He didn't pitch all that well. A couple of walks. He scattered 6 hits, 3 runs. He was just Taijuan Walker. But when push came to shove, the bullpen came in and Strahm did his job. Soto gave up a run. Kirk Green came in, and the game's over. But all of that stuff that I take into account is the offense up and down. Bullpen, pitch well. But my biggest takeaway is the answer Rob Thompson gave at the end of the game last night. That's my takeaway from the game last night, is how Rob Thompson is the perfect guy, the perfect temperament for this team. He understands what I've been saying the whole season. It's the big picture. It's not Tuesday night in May. It is not 4th of July. It's not this game or that game. The Phillies' temperament is, we can win 116 games, but if we don't win the World Series, what did we do? I love it. But I also think you can have fun as a fan with this. And I also think as a fan, you can enjoy a fun regular season. And it doesn't define your team. But we all remember the 93 Phillies. We all remember the 01 76ers. We certainly remember that the Mariners won 116 games in 2001. We also remember that they didn't win the World Series. That doesn't mean that those fans in Seattle don't remember that season as one of the most fun seasons they ever had. We all want to end in a World Series, but let's not be able to romanticize about what baseball is a long summer, because the summer is about to start. And I hate for the Phillies and have this season kind of get lost in the sauce because we're not acknowledging that it's fun to win a lot of games, because that's cool too. Phillies are 6 games up on the Braves. So, couple things. Why is this season so important? Why is this start so important in the way they're doing it, as opposed to the way they've done it in the last couple of years? Because they've been a wild card team. They've been like an 89-win, 86-win team. And Dave Dombrowski was on the John Heyman podcast. It's called The Show. It's a New York Post. John Heyman's their national baseball writer with Joel Sherman. They do a really good job. And Dombrowski said he knew the guys he had because they didn't make moves. They didn't make any moves. This lineup is the same, essentially. And he says he knew the guys would have to be better than in years past. And we all said that. I talked about at the beginning of the year. Who is going to have a better year this year than they had last year? It was hard to find a guy. Like, who's going to be better than they were a year ago? And he brought up why he feels it's so important that the team is doing what they are now and who some of those younger guys are. And he said the younger guys being a part of a team that is really, really good to get to be that team that goes from 85, 86 wins to that 90, 100 win. That's a sign of the younger guys taking that next step.
If we wanted to take the next step to be really, really good, to be the 90-plus, trying to win 100 game, those young players needed to take that next step. Because when you look at Bohm, when you look at Stott, when you look at Marsh, Suarez. So I think they've continued that growth process rather than stagnate. And I think that's extremely important.
We've talked a lot about why this team is 36-14. There's 2 guys that are exceeding all expectations. Ranger Suarez, Alec Bohm. Those 2 guys are a big part of the reason why this team is getting out of that 85, 89 win range and putting them on pace to be over 100 wins. It's a great sign for your organization when the young players are a big part of it. Bohm, Stott, Rojas, Marsh. You've got the makings of guys from your organization. I know Marsh isn't from your organization, but you got young guys that you don't have to spend a lot of money on. They went out and bought pieces. Harper, Turner, Schwarber, Castellanos, Wheeler. They traded for Real Muto. They traded and bought a lot of guys, but they had Real Muto. They had Harper, and those guys weren't enough. So then they went and got Schwarber, and they went and got Castellanos. You can't keep spending. The spending stopped, and it stopped because they had faith in Stott and Bohm and Rojas and Marsh. Now, we'll see if that changes, because Dave Dombrowski explains here on why he doesn't want to make an early season trade, why he doesn't want to say, hey, maybe we need to replace Rojas, or hey, maybe we need to do something in the bullpen. And here's why.
If you engage now, it really has to be the right acquisition for you, because the closer you get to the deadline, who knows what your biggest need may be at that point due to health. That's usually what the case ends up being. If you told me we were going to stay perfectly healthy from now till July 30th it is this year, well, that would be one thing. But when you've been around enough, you don't know how that will change.
It's an interesting concept of, I don't want to give something away and then something else happens, and then I have to give something else away to get better. So let's see what we have. And then as we get closer to the deadline, we'll assess what we absolutely have to have. Dave Dombrowski on the Show podcast at the New York Post. You know, one of the questions has been, what's different about this year? Why has this team got off to this historic start? They've had the same players. It's a lot of the same guys. So why are they the same, Dave Dombrowski?
making sure our starting pitchers were more prepared to go deeper into the game than they were in maybe the past year. When we've been in the postseason, sometimes there's the caution that goes out there that, hey, we have to really be careful. And not that you're not always careful with your guys, right? I mean, you always never want to push them too much. You don't want to have them throw too many pitches. You don't want to have them come back too quickly. But there's just a different emphasis, being prepared to throw more pitches with that type of mindset when you come out of the gate, which you in turn can go and increase as the month of April progresses.
So they had a different mindset with their pitchers. That's number one. They couldn't do that with the World Baseball Classic. They haven't been able to do that with a guy like Ranger Suarez. And it's something that Dave Dombrowski, because he's the guy right now that's anchoring this pitching staff. I know Wheeler's pitching today and they're down 1-0. But the guy who's really blossomed is Suarez. And here's why.
He has really been a good pitcher when he's gone out there and pitched. Unfortunately, he's always had a little bit of difficulty coming into spring training, visa issues, sometimes being a little bit tender. Last year with the WBC, which again, I'm an advocate of, but it was one of those where he ended up getting hurt, wasn't ready quite to start the season. So this was the first spring in a few years where we had him from the very beginning in shape, ready to lengthen out and get prepared for the season.
Yeah, so Suarez and the whole pitching mindset has kind of changed, but having Suarez there has kind of allowed him to be the postseason pitcher that we see during the regular season now. And you're seeing that here's a guy, when he pitches in the playoffs, we asked the question over on social media on our Facebook page, and you guys can follow along on Facebook, 973 ESPN, and be a part of the show over there. And we asked the question yesterday, okay? If it was a Game 7, who would be the guy that you would want to pitch that game? Game 7, who you got? Is it Nola? Is it Wheeler? Or is it Suarez? And a lot of people answered the question. And it's interesting because we did have a variety of answers. And some of the answers I thought were kind of interesting. So I'll read off some of the answers here. Joanne says, any way you look at it, we're good. Joanne, you're right. She didn't want to be nailed down to one.
It sounds like she just likes the guys in general.
Of course. It's a likable team right now. Ron.
You don't want to pick you don't want to say you have a favorite child when you have 3 kids.
Exactly. Ron says Ranger. Timothy said Ranger. Another Timothy, a different Timothy, said Suarez. He's making history this year that neither of the other two have made. Dave, Ranger. Glenn, Wheeler. He's stone cold. Okay. Kristen, Wheeler. Catherine, Wheels. Shaner. That's tough this year, but I think Wheels has earned the respect. All right. Michael says Wheeler. Jim says Wheeler, but would feel confident with any of the 3 stepping to the rubber. Okay. Goody, he says Wheeler. Jimmy, he says Nola. Chris, he said Wheeler. Save Ranger for multi-inning reliever. Or vice versa. That I don't see happening. You're not going to use Wheeler or Ranger in that bullpen role. You're using him as a starter. He's not. I mean, the only way you can see that is like a Game 7. Yes, I can see what he's talking about. But like last year, Wheeler pitched in game. You could have done that last year, I guess, because Suarez pitched in Game 7.
Game 7, right. And you could have had Wheeler, let's say, come out of the bullpen situation.
Yeah, it would be hard to get Wheeler in a Game 7 if he's pitching Game 1.
Right.
He would have to come back on really short rest.
But, we've seen teams do that in the past where, you have a guy, Madison Bumgarner, Kurt Schilling, Randy Johnson, guys like that. They've come in out of the bullpen in a unique Game 7 situation.
Yeah, like all hands on deck type of deal. So, All right, Chris, I'll re-allow that. Michael says right now Ranger, by the end, Wheeler. Chris says Wheeler. Joe says Ranger. He's got the nerves and the attitude, to which James chimed in. And this is where I think James is off base. He says, pitching in the 3-hole against teams with losing records doesn't take nerves of steel. Wheeler has been a guy who has playoff performances. He's 3-1 with an ERA of 1.62, and he saved a game in 9 playoff appearances. It's not exactly facing teams with losing records.
Yeah. I feel like James is just being negative. Just a negative guy.
Yeah, I think James is off base on that one. Mike says the correct answer is yup. I'll take any of the 3. Glenn chimes in. He says Wheeler every day. Jason says great problem to have. Yes, it is. Jeff says, right now, Ranger, but it's fluid. You need to go with the hot arm.
What are you, Stephen A. Smith? It's fluid?
Right. Gil says, Suarez is on pace to be the first Phillies 20-game winner from their farm system since Chris Short. So does that sound like a vote for Suarez?
It sounds like a vote for Ranger.
Yes. And then two more Wheelers to kind of wrap up some of the voting there. So you can see a lot of people are conflicted. Wheeler, Suarez. It seems like Nola's not getting the same support, but what a great problem to have, right? And you just heard Dave Dombrowski talking about they changed their approach with their pitchers, Suarez and all of that. So pretty interesting here. But when we come back, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. We're just getting started on this Thursday edition. It is Memorial Day weekend coming up, so we'll have some fun stuff going on. Colin Thompson is going to join us coming up. We're going to talk to him about OTAs. What can be gained from OTAs? We'll talk to NFL free agent tight end Colin Thompson at 3 o'clock today. But when we come back, we'll talk to how important Rob Thompson is to this team. I started off the show by saying I think we should appreciate Rob Thompson more about his role of why this team is who they are and what they are so far. I'm not suggesting that Rob Thompson's the greatest X and O tactician manager of all time, but is that really all that important in baseball? I think what's most important in baseball is the temperament of your team, the personality of your team. They follow the manager, and this team follows the manager. So why is he the right guy for this team? And why this time around, Rob Thompson could be the perfect choice for the Phillies? That's coming up next. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City and streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
It's this.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
229 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive. I'm Mike Gill. I was listening to Dave Dombrowski on the John Heyman, Joel Sherman podcast. It's called The Show on the New York Post. A lot of interesting stuff here. We played a lot of the audio in the first segment for you. But one of the things I opened up today's show with I loved the answer that Rob Thompson gave last night when he was asked about the Seattle Mariners and their historic start back in 2001. By the way, Josh, you like to play these games. Can you name the 0-1 Mariners? Do you have that was the two young interns we have. Nick and Alex were here today.
Yeah.
They didn't know, who the hell these guys were.
Well, Brett Boone was on that team.
Brett Boone is on the team. Second baseman, Brett Boone. He had a great year that year, by the way. Hit 331, 37 homers, and 141 RBIs. He wasn't just on the team. He carried the team.
The other guy who I believe came with him in a trade with Mike Cameron.
Mike Cameron was on the team. He had a good year. 267, 25 homers, 110 ribbies.
If I remember correctly, because Boone and Cameron came to the Mariners as part of the Ken Griffey trade that sent Ken Griffey to Cincinnati.
Ken Griffey was not on this team, correct.
But I mean, they were part of that trade.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to fact check you because I don't care enough.
You don't care.
But Ken Griffey, most people would assume that Griffey and A-Rod were on this team. They were not.
Nope, that was years earlier. At this point, Griffey was in Cincinnati and A-Rod was in Texas. So I believe John Olerud was at first base.
He was the first baseman. He hit 302 with 21 homers and 95 RBI. He had a 400 on-base percentage.
Was Dan Wilson the catcher?
Dan Wilson was your catcher. He had 265 with 10 homers.
See here. Now, if I'm thinking back correctly,
This is the 0-1 Mariners. For those of you playing at home, 116 wins. They finished first in the AL West. They won the division series 3-2 over Cleveland, and then they lost the American League Championship Series to the Yankees as JT Realmuto just went yard work for the Phils. They've tied it up in the third, so back-to-back days with bombs for JT.
Oppo Boppo for JT there.
All right. I delayed long enough for you to come up with some more names.
Yeah, well, Jamie Moyer, I believe, was on the pitching staff.
Moyer was your number 3 starter. He went 20-6 that year.
And I believe Ichiro, that was his rookie year, I think.
Ichiro's on the team. He hit 350. I'll say that again. Ichiro hit 350, for God's sakes.
He was really good.
Yeah, he stole 56 bags that year.
Beautiful. And I believe the closer was the Japanese guy as well, as Suzuki or Sasaki or...
Yeah, Kazuhiro Sasaki.
There it is.
That year pitched in 69 games. He had 45 saves.
Okay, so I've gotten some of the team here.
Yeah, and you haven't named a guy that hasn't been on the team yet. So far you're doing all right.
I'm doing okay.
You're missing the biggest star of the team.
Of course I am. Because why would I not do a game like this and not miss the biggest name I should remember?
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't still help me. Was Edgar Martinez the DH?
He is the biggest star on the team. Edgar Martinez hit 306 with 23 homers on 116 RBI, but the most impressive number of them all, he had a 423 on base percentage.
Man, that guy was good. He was such a sweet swing, too. Trying to think who else was on that pitching staff now.
You've got the catcher, the first baseman, the second baseman, the center fielder, the right fielder, and the designated hitter, and the number 3 pitcher and the closer.
Right. Because why else would I guess it in any other order, right? I'm trying to think who their shortstop was for that team.
He's probably their worst player.
Oh, geez. All right.
Him or the left fielder would probably be the 2 least known guys. I'll be surprised if you get either one of these guys, quite frankly.
Wait, so you're saying I should know the third baseman?
Third baseman, yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't have guessed him, but he's a recognizable name.
Oof. Okay, that's not really helpful.
They had one other guy. He's like a utility guy I would give you credit for.
You would give me credit for, like Alex Cora?
That type of player, but no, not Alex Cora. He was not on this team.
Or was it Joey Cora?
No, he wasn't.
Okay, darn. That's my first bad guess. All right, let me see here. I'm thinking, who else pitched for that team aside from Jamie Moyer?
I mean, the number 1 guy on that team was a stud.
Was a stud.
Yep.
Well, Randy Johnson was already traded at that point, so that was probably the guy that traded for him. So was it Freddie Garcia?
Freddie Garcia was the number 1 on that team. He won 18 games that year.
And does that mean John Halama was on that team too?
John Halama was the number 5 pitcher on that team. He was on that team. Yes, that's a name right there. Wow.
Well, I thought of the Randy Johnson trade.
They had 5 double-digit winners on that team.
Wow,
Moyer
really?
won 20. Garcia won 18. One guy won 15. One won 17. And John Halama won 10.
Wait, was Steve Traxel on that team?
Steve Traxel was not on that team.
Darn. But he played with the Mariners at one point. I do know that.
No, I remember with the Cubs.
He was with the Cubs. He played with a few teams for his career. All right, so I got 3 of the starters at least. So I'm not doing too
you're
bad.
missing a pretty well-known one. The other guy, I don't think you're getting, but he had a great year that year. And there was one younger guy who pitched a bunch for them.
A younger guy. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
See here, who else might have been on this team?
They have some interesting bullpen names on this team, too.
Do they?
Yeah. I think 2 of them pitched for the Phillies.
2 of them?
Yeah.
Heathcliff Slocum? Or is it the wrong era?
No Heathcliff Slocum.
He was traded to the Mariners at one point.
He was on both of the Phillies and the Mariners. I did verify that at least one of them pitched for the Phillies. Let me check the other one that I thought was on the Phillies.
Okay.
And he did spend 1 year with the Phillies, so both guys I thought were on the Phillies, in fact, were
on the
Phillies. Let me see. Was this guy a Philly too? Let me check that one. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. He was not. Okay, I didn't think he was. The only other guy, there was one other guy I thought maybe had a cup of coffee with the Phillies is this guy here. And he did. He did have a cup of coffee with the Phillies, and he stunk.
He stunk. Great.
He had one amazing year in his career, and other than that 1 year, he was not good ever again. He had the 1 year in 2001. He won 17-4 with the Mariners. And after that, I mean, with the Phillies, he went 1-6 with a 6.24 ERA.
6.20.
Yeah, he was bad.
That's real bad.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie Moyer, of course, pitched for the Phillies, too.
Yes, we already named Moyer. I'm trying to think of interesting bullpen pitchers from that era. Going through my mind here. No, he wouldn't have pitched in 2001. He was with the Mariners earlier. Wait, hold on. Was Jeff Fassaro on this team?
He was not. No, okay. Jeff Fassaro.
So I went too far back in the Mariner brain archive there.
Sure.
Because he played for the Mariners and for the Expos. I had his baseball card. That's how I remember that.
I'll give you a couple more guesses.
Was Chris Bosio on this team?
He was not.
All right.
Yeah, that's an old Brewer.
He was also a Mariner. He pitched with Randy Johnson at one point.
There you go.
So, all right, give it to me. Who are the other two starters?
The other two starters. So you had Freddie Garcia that you got. Aaron Seeley.
Oh, my goodness. He played for the Rangers.
He was a Red Sox.
And a Ranger.
Great. Jamie Moyer was the 3. The guy that I'm talking about that pitched for the Phillies and had one good year was Paul Abbott.
Oh, my goodness. The righty.
He had 17 wins in 2001 for that Mariners team. John Halama was the 5, and Joel Pinheiro was like the fill-in guy. He was the 6th guy, but he had an unbelievable year. He was 6-2 with an ERA of 2.03 in 11 starts for them. So he jumped in. Kaz Suzuki was the closer.
Yep, got that.
Arthur Rhodes. He pitched for the Phillies. He was 8-0 with a 1.72 ERA for the Mariners that year.
I remember him with the Orioles.
He did pitch for the Orioles. He pitched 1 year with the Phillies late in his career. Jeff Nelson also pitched on this team. And the other guy who pitched for the Phillies was Norm Charlton.
Norm Charlton, lefty.
He was a part of the Nasty Boys with the Reds. He pitched 1 year with the Phillies back in like 1995. So that was the pitching staff. And then the lineup of guys was the catcher was Dan Wilson. Gotcha. John Olerud was the first baseman. Brett Boone played second. Carlos Guillen was the shortstop.
Gotcha.
David Bell was the third baseman for that team.
He played for the Phillies.
Martin, he did play for the Phillies. Al Martin played left. Mike Cameron played center. Ichiro was the right fielder, and Edgar Martinez was the DH. Mark McLemore was their like super utility guy, and he played in 125 games. So that is the winningest team
in baseball history.
Right there, 116 wins. So that question gets asked to Rob Thompson last night. You know, hey, that Mariners team won 116 games. You're on that pace. And he said, well, what did they win? And when I was thinking about today's show, I said, man, that answer is why Rob Thompson is the perfect guy for this team. And luckily, Dave Dombrowski also thinks that he was the obvious choice to manage this group of guys.
Rob Thompson was an obvious choice in that regard. Knows the game inside out, been the right-hand man to the manager for years, well-respected in the clubhouse. Players have a good respect for him, much more even-keeled, made players feel comfortable coming here, youngsters and all that. So he was an obvious choice.
Even-keeled makes the youngsters feel comfortable. He's the obvious choice. So how important is what Rob Thompson does for the ball club? This is a really interesting answer because, you know, we had David Sampson on last year. He was the former team president of the Marlins. And it sparked a lot of controversy on some of the things that he said, and some people just like don't agree with him. And the manager gets like a lot of heat for the lineups and when he pulls pitchers and all that stuff. Here's what Dave Dombrowski maps out on how important the job is that Rob Thompson does for this team. Listen closely to see if he mentions lineup decisions.
Manager's job is huge. It is such a big job There is so much that's involved in it. And if one thing ends up being a major challenge for you, handling the pitching staff, let's say that that's an issue. Communication with the players, communication with the media, communication with the front office, all those, and there's so many more things. But if any of them become a major issue for you, all of a sudden that job can become even a bigger challenge because you're tackling those issues.
You know, he mentioned all the things, the handling the pitching staff and handling the media and handling that. He never said, like, hey, he's got to come up with the lineup and put all that together. He's basically saying, like, hey, this guy is the perfect guy because he is just, and I talk about this all the time. Like, to me, coaches in all sports, football's a little different because they call all the plays. But like coaches in sports, so much to me, the importance to them is the team takes on the personality of the coach. You know, how much does the coach let them get away with? How much does the coach crack the whip? How much is the coach a guy that they like playing for? How much is a coach a guy they despise playing for? Rob Thompson's a guy that when all 26 guys walk in the clubhouse, they want to play for him. To me, that's more important than anything else. We see it all throughout baseball. You know, many times we think that the managers are doing this and that, and they're making the lineups, and they're pulling the pitchers, and doing all that stuff. I think those times are kind of behind us, sadly, as fans. Like, we like to blame the manager because they did something wrong. You know, I remember back in Game 1 of the season, you know, somebody was talking about why pull so-and-so from the game. I said, it's the first game of the year. They're not going to leave him out there for this many pitches. That might not be the manager's philosophy. That's the organization's philosophy. Well, the guy's arguing with me saying, well, can't he just go rogue and do it himself? And I said, yeah, he could, but then he's going to be looking for a job. Well, what if it works? Okay, what if it works? What if he keeps going rogue? And one day it works and one day it doesn't work. Do you see how asinine that comment sounds? Like, just keep going rogue against your boss and it might work one day and your boss will say, you're lucky that it worked today.
Right.
It's not going to work every time. That's just sports. It's just not always going to work. So Rob Thompson has bought into, look, if I was managing and the front office is saying, hey, you got to pull this guy at 80 pitches today. Well, I might not want to pull him at 80 pitches, but I'm not going to ride the guy 90 pitches if the guy above me said you got to go to 80, whether I think it's the right thing or not. And Thompson is on board with the messaging from the front office of, this is the way we're going to work our team. This is the way we're going to work our lineup. This is the way we're going to do things. When guys want to play certain guys every day and you complain, why isn't he in the lineup today? The Phillies organization, I think, is saying, we feel we need to get our bench players more playing time because we felt that our bench was short last year. We didn't think our bench was deep enough. Maybe because we didn't give them enough playing time. Maybe those guys didn't get enough at bats. So now you're seeing, now Turner's hurt. You wouldn't see Sosa as much, but we're going to get guys more playing time. And you might not like it. You might want Marsh to play against lefties. And they're saying, we don't need Marsh against lefties. Why? Because we have a capable right-handed bat that can hit against lefties.
And to your point about Sosa, he has already made two very important defensive plays in this game today. So it just goes to show you the importance of having a guy like him on your team, even if he doesn't initially look like he's going to get a lot of playing time. And then to your point about Thompson, he mentions their communication with the front office. So like you said, Thompson is talking to Dombrowski. He's communicating with him. You know, Dave Sanson, when he came on with you last year, Mike, he said that they would every day, the front office and the manager would meet. And Dombrowski has talked about how, yeah, me and Rob Thompson and Sam Fole, we talk every single day. So these guys in today's baseball, they value that communication from the guy in the dugout to the guy upstairs.
It's again, I go back to the big picture aspect of this season. To me, it's the most important thing is the big picture aspect of this season. And you've got a guy who is playing that role perfectly in Rob Thompson.
Yeah, and I was just going to say really quick, he also said in there about managing and communicating with the players. If the players didn't like him, you think he would be here? It doesn't matter if fill-in-the-blank fan likes Rob Thompson. If the organization likes him and the players like him, then to me, that's a winning formula.
Well, we'll see how this one turns out. We just had a home run from JT Realmuto. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. 1-1 the score. Phils and the Texas Rangers, the World Series champion Rangers, who are on the verge of getting swept potentially by the Phillies. We'll see how that all maps up here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. We've got Colin Thompson, free agent, NFL free agent, tight end, going to join us at 3. How important are OTAs? What can be gained by OTAs from veteran players, younger players? How important were they to his career? We'll talk to Colin at 3, and then we'll have a little fun with Colin, local guy. What's he looking forward to this summer? What are some of the spots you want to hit down the shore this summer? I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's learning environments are designed for supportive networking and collaboration. With over 330 academic programs, GCU provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
Mike Gill.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
It's a party at Citizens Bank Park, a Pache party. Christian Pache with a triple, base clearing triple. He had 2 on, and Pache delivers one off the left field wall. And 2 runs come around, and the Phillies lead it 3-1. I mean, you're looking at the crowd, too. I mean, it looks like an October baseball game at Citizens Bank Park. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon almost.
I'm jealous.
It's the last time you went to a Phillies game.
Let's not talk about that on the radio.
Oh.
It's been a while.
Wow. No Phils. I haven't been to a Phils game.
It's been a couple of years.
Okay. Did I go to a game last year? I went to a playoff game last year. I went to the wild card game against the Marlins, but other than that, I did not go to a regular season game last year.
Life. It happens.
Yeah, you know, like the fact that they moved the games to 6:40, a lot of them, has made it even more difficult. The 7 o'clock game, I'm getting in a little late.
I mean, you're going to at least 2 this year.
Yes.
Because you got London. Right?
Going to just one in London.
Wait, but then you got aren't you going to the game?
I'm going to the game in Baltimore, too,
right.
Yes.
But they're not home games.
Mike, kudos to Josh on his Mariner memory. Thoroughly enjoying the Phillies. They have some words that may surface, but that's for another time. Let's enjoy the ride. Up 6 on Atlanta.
Another run just scored. Schwarber knocked him in.
By the way, he mentioned something in the text message here. The Eagles have signed a former first-round pick. Get the details on our website, 973ESPN.com. And football at 4 today. Andrew DeCecco will discuss the signing, but for more details, go to our website. Colin Thompson, former NFL tight end, coming up next.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Just after 3 on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive to find us. Colin Thompson, NFL free agent tight end, former Carolina Panther, among others. And, of course, just an all-around good dude. Kind enough to join us right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming on the X platform at 973 ESPN. He is the host of the Colin Thompson Show on Not For Long Media. What's up, dude?
What's up, Mike? Always great to be on your show. People are piling down the Jersey Shore. It's that time of year where the locals complain about traffic in grocery stores, but that's why everyone's houses are worth so much money. So it's a give and take.
Give us another 48 hours, can we? Or no, is it already starting up? You're not down here, right?
I am not yet, but it has not started up. It definitely has. I talked to a few people on their way down. So, people are working remote now. That type of world has taken over a bit, as you know. So you're remote. You're at a wonderful casino today, Mike.
No, not today. I'm in the studio today, but I was out not too long ago on a Thursday. I was at Ocean, as we always are at the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. But we did our draft show there at Top Golf, and it was packed that day. By the way, I can't believe it was a month ago that draft was. Holy mackerel! But with that, Colin Thompson, that means the OTAs are underway, and you have gone through these OTAs, and I think it's a unique perspective from someone who's been through OTAs. What exactly happens at these things? What are these guys doing? How important are they? And what can be learned from the coaching staff about players right now? And can players, I don't want to say win a job or win, something, but how do the players get right? I know I just threw a lot at you here, but kind of an overview of a player's perspective on OTA.
Yeah, I will try to unpack it the best way I can, Mike. So I'll take your first question. What is it? So what happens is collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, between the players, the owners, the whole kick-a-boodle that's always negotiated. These have changed over the years. I remember Mark Sanchez telling me stories about when he was a rookie with the Jets. They got drafted, and they were doing live in-pad drills in April. And they made Mark Sanchez live against like Bart Scott, Jason Taylor, and the Jets defense. And Mark being like, Colin, you don't understand. This was in April. Now you're in helmets, if anything. There's no shoulder pads. It's really changed. It's really for skill development, strength and conditioning. My issue with it is it's not enough time. So you're training in the off season, 2-3 hour workouts a day, maybe 4 hours, maybe a rehab, stint here, maybe yoga there. You're working 6 hours a day. But when you go into these NFL facilities, it's only 4 hours you're allowed to be in them for the bulk of it, 4 days a week. So Monday through Thursday, usually it's like 9 to 1, and you're there all day and you meet, you watch film, you lift and run. And then the next phase after 2 weeks is you meet, watch film, lift, and then practice. And then the next 2 weeks come by, which you're hitting now is OTAs, which will be, it starts with a 45-minute practice. Then it's worked its way all the way up to 2 hours, right? It's all sanctioned by the CBA protecting players, so clubs can't wear players down in April and May. So it's a build-up, Mike, and it's all laid out. And then you have the veteran mini camp that is mandatory for players to get to. And it's no big deal if these guys don't show up to it, especially if you're a really big-time player. If you're a guy like me, Mike, you had to be there every single day. I never missed a day in my tenure of an OTA-type player. I've probably been a part of 6 or 7 of them, as well as rookie mini camps. They're really beneficial for guys like myself and guys on the bottom of the roster trying to impress coaches and continue to let coaches give you reps in training camp. Which people don't understand is, yeah, you're third on the depth chart, but you may only get 4 reps of practice. That's it. You got 4 reps to prove that you're meant to be on this football club. And that's really, really hard. What you see is when there's injuries, you see guys get opportunities and take advantage of them. And, of course, the 2s and the 3s on the depth chart are playing in those preseason games. So that's the give and the take. So a lot to unpack there. But, yes, you can move the depth chart. Yes, you can get better. There's some limitations, though. The amount of time you're in the building, I hated it. I thought it was too short. You felt everything was very rushed instead of take our time and actually get better at times. So every team does it a little differently, but they're a great time of year to get back in the building and get around the teammates.
Yeah, and one of the things, like, I always talk about, like, people say, it's OTA, don't put a lot of stock into it, how the depth chart looks, and that might be true. But what I think, and I want to see if you agree, is, Colin Thompson, you're in my training camp, you're in my OTA. I don't know much about you. I'm a coach, and you're just doing something. You might not have been on my radar, and now I'm like, you know what? When we get to training camp, I want to make sure I pay more attention to this guy. Like, you can try to catch someone's eye so that the next benchmark, OTA to training camp, you are now someone who's a little bit more on that staff's radar than you were when you entered OTA.
I'll give you a perfect example, Mike, and you're 100% right. When I was with the Carolina Panthers during the COVID season, we were virtual. I was virtually coaching in Cape May, Lower Cape May Regional, still am, and I was taking iPad OTAs with the Panthers, and we would meet, 2-3 hours a day, a couple days a week, right? And Joe Brady was our offensive coordinator, had no idea who I was. A couple scouts wanted me there. Coach Rule wanted me there. A couple staff members wanted me there. That's how I got to Carolina out of the XFL. I get cut at the end of training camp. We'll fast forward, but they re-signed me the next day to the roster. Some roster movement opened up spots for me to join. And Joe Brady said to me, the OC, 2 years ago, before that, he won a national championship at LSU. Offensive coordinator Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Allaire, the running back from Kansas City, really good teams, right? He said to me, I had no idea who you were, and we met virtually. And your involvement in the virtual OTAs during COVID and how you did on the take-home tests and the quizzes they would quiz us on, right, to challenge us on the playbook, really turned a kind of an eye to say, I'm going to watch this guy a little bit more in training camp. That's not even my physical tools, Mike, which at the end of the day has a lot to do with you making the team, but really the mental side has almost everything to do with it. I'll be honest with you. I'll contradict what I just said. So that's an example of Joe Brady, who I never met, and I met virtually, and he was impressed how I conducted myself on those virtual meetings. And when I had the opportunity to go, I kind of reassured what people that were fans of me thought of me, but also was a little bit easier to win him over.
Colin Thompson, NFL free agent tight end, former Carolina Panthers tight end, host of the Colin Thompson Show on Not For Long Media as the Phillies, by the way, up 4-1, as the Eagles at OTAs. Some Eagles news real quick. They signed John Ross, he of which ran a 4.240 at the Combine back in 2017. That's because Devontae Parker retired. They had a spot open, so they did sign John Ross today. So there's something that he was at rookie mini camp last week and was able to catch someone's eye there. Now, I know he's a little different circumstance. He's a veteran player who had a little bit of a track record, but it showed, hey, I just walked in. It's like Willie Mays Hayes showing up to Major League camp and just saying, hey, take a look at me. He got signed from rookie OTAs 2 weeks ago.
Yep. I've been in many of those rookie mini camps. I probably host a record. That's not a record to be proud of, too, by the way, Mike. I've probably been in one in Detroit, one in New Orleans, two with the Giants, two with the Bears, one in Carolina. I've been in a lot of them because you have to get a credited season in the NFL to avoid those rookie mini camps unless you're a veteran exempt type of guy like John Ross is. So they bring him in. I'll be honest, Mike, wish Devontae Parker nothing but the best in retirement. He was a really good player in Miami, and stuff went a little sideways maybe in New England last year. I talked to a couple of my buddies in the NFL that I asked, hey, what happened last year in New England? And they just said he's probably going to be better with a new scenery, if you will. Doesn't mean he had a bad year. So I was excited to see him be like the third, fourth guy, kind of like Julio was last year, because he's a pretty good player, and he's still got tread on the tires. He's not like Julio, who's much older and more worn down because of all those reps.
Right.
But John Ross, everybody gets hung up on the 40 and really excited about that. He's a veteran. He'll be a good depth piece. My question is, if you're third and fourth receiver, everybody wants these depth, but can that guy play on special teams, especially now with the new kickoff return rules? Balls are going to be returned now more than ever. It's not kicked out the back of the end zone anymore, where they just say, hey, we don't care who's on the team. We want linebackers for punt coverage because that's very important, and punt return. But other than that, it wasn't relative. Now these bottom of the roster guys are going to be very relative now because kickoff return. So good luck to John. Congrats making it a rookie minicamp. The grind, those are not fun, Mike. All the rookies are going 1,000 miles an hour, and you're the veteran playing football kind of the right way. And these rookies in the walkthroughs are like taking your head off. So it's a crazy world in those rookie mini camps, and congrats to him for signing.
All right, couple things. The Eagles have 2 new coordinators. So are these OTAs a little bit more impactful and important because of that?
Yes, absolutely. So offensively, I could talk on that. I mean, obviously defensively, terminology, you have to get used to that. But it's probably the same terminology because Sean Desai is the same guy, terminology-wise, as Vic Fangio. So it's the same system. So defensively, they're probably so happy because usually when you have a new coordinator, you got to learn everything all over. So defense will be fine, term-wise, right? And then offensively, it's absolutely massive. Like you're breaking that huddle, thinking you learned how to speak Spanish last year, and now you're, breaking the huddle and you're speaking a whole different language again. So you have to take things from the previous regime, tie it to the new thing. You may take something from college and tie it to what you're doing here. You're finding any way, Mike, to help you play fast and show the coaches I know the offense. and you could fake it till you make it. I mean, I would write stuff on my arms, my gloves. I had so much word association, and I wish I had all this stuff when I was like younger. I didn't learn how to teach myself, right? How to like study, really, like even academically, until I was in the NFL. I was forced to learn the playbook, or I was going to get cut. So, for these guys right now, it's a huge time offensively. It's a massive time for Jalen Hurts. Kellen Moore, first off, was one of the better college football quarterbacks ever. So this isn't some, football guy that never played the position. This is a guy who's going to give him peace of mind. Played in the NFL for a little bit. I think Jalen has a huge year. I've said on your show before, I think it has massive impact on Saquon Barkley, all the key players he's going to be with. So I think Saquon's an MVP dark horse, not talked about enough. Same with Jalen again. So, excited for the team this year just because I'm excited to see what Kellen Moore's going to do. Are they going to be under center more? Are they going to be play action pass? That's what I would do a little bit more with Jalen. He's a little bit more polished now at quarterback. I don't want to see as much gun, but you still got to involve the RPOs and like.
All right, I want to get your take then. Do you make a big deal? This is an interesting situation, Colin, because James Bradberry, we know he didn't have a great year. A lot of talk. They drafted a corner in the first round. Then they followed up with Cooper DeJean in the second round. He is not at the OTAs. Is there a messaging there? Does a veteran player, does he just not show up because he doesn't like the way the offseason? Do they tell him not to show up? What do you make of James Bradberry not being there?
That's interesting. Did he show up last year? That'd be my first question. Because he signed that nice ticket last year. If he didn't show up last year, then no big deal. If he didn't show up this year, I don't know. People make a big deal about this because there's not a lot to talk about. It is completely voluntary. And it's not even voluntary like wink, wink, show up. It's like, hey, it's voluntary.
Yeah.
You will not be punished if you don't show up. But it hurts you, right? Because other guys are getting reps. And can he be trusted? The other thing, too, is the business side of this. And that's the number one thing in Philly is the cap. Right? Like, how can they afford all these players? So they can't cut Bradberry unless there's a big dead cap hit, I believe, Mike. So I think that, Slay, Bradberry, and the 2 first-round picks, that's a pretty good mix at corner. You're not going to find a probably better room with that in the NFL, maybe some other places, maybe. But they went from, like, the worst room in the league to the best room because however it works out, even if Bradberry plays better, say he's your number 2 or 3, then you got, the high-end pick and the first-round pick, second-round pick. You got a pretty good player, too, that people thought he was the number 1 corner. So, I don't know. To me, it went from a position of weakness to probably one of their top most depth positions on the team, which excites me if I'm an Eagles fan.
Right. I mean, yeah, I was talking about this the other day. Is okay, everybody keeps talking about Cooper DeJean, and is he a corner? Are they going to play him at safety? Is he going to get nickel? And I'm like, well, if Bradberry's here, is Bradberry automatically, the starting corner? Or do they draft a guy, Quinyon Mitchell, because they want him to be the starter? And if that's the case, Cooper DeJean is now like the third guy at outside corner. So it's like, where do you see Vic Fangio kind of using him on the field? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we had some really good players when I was in Chicago. He had some nickel corners, some slot guys, going out there and coming in for the same linebacker on those passing downs that were really good, really tough, really good. I think it was Bryce Callahan, and there was one other kid at FAU. And I just remember them being very savvy, very tough. Smaller, so they're physical, but they're not killing you. So to me, Mike, it's okay to have multiple. They're going to find a place. It's all matchups, right? Like, if there's a really good slot receiver and they think Slay wants to play man-to-man on him, they may move him out there and move someone there. So it's all matchups. How can you put your players in the best positions to have success? And the more players you can have that have depth, that's why I like the position. Like, hey, man, it's good that the Eagles fans and media and the team is stressing over who your starters are because you're going to have 2 guys behind them that have played at a high level. Either they're younger, they're older, right? They have a lot of options there. And then, of course, they're bounded by contract in a lot of these things. A lot of people are saying trade Bradberry or trade this guy, but okay, well, A, who are you going to get to replace him? And then B, is that a dead cap hit? And what are you getting in return?
All right, that'll be an interesting storyline as we move forward here. You've talked about you played for Vic Fangio. There's been, a lot of the Miami guys kind of taking some swings at Vic Fangio, man. It sounds like they didn't enjoy playing for him. They're like, oh, it's nice to have a coordinator who talks to us and stuff. So I guess it's just like everybody's different. Everybody's personality is different. You're not going to get 53 guys all liking, everybody.
Mike, I've gone on vacation and had beers with some coaches before on a consistent basis. and those people in Cape May are listening right now, and people in Key West, they know who those couple individuals are. And I've literally worked with guys for 4 years, and Mr. Personality myself, me, I could talk to a wall. I've maybe said 20 words to them. I tried to talk to Vic. The only way I connected with Vic was about the local Italian restaurant, and that was the rabbit hole I kept going down with him, because there was this little Italian restaurant in a little kind of old school Main Street, looked like Washington Street Mall in Cape May kind of vibe. And it was a deli in the front, and at night through the back door, the guy would open a restaurant up. There was only 10 seats. It was BYO. And I would go there on Thursday nights, and the coaches would be in there before us, and myself and a couple guys would go in and eat. And Vic loved that, and that's how I connected with them. So, listen, there's going to be ways to connect with Vic. He's already talking about cheesesteaks. The guys are just going to have to find it, right? Everybody has their thing. But, it's just like any workplace. You're going to have people you talk to all the time and you go on vacation with and
you could talk about, you could probably speak on this, and I don't think this is like throwing guys out under the bus, but it feels like some guys want the coach to be their friend and other guys want the coach to coach them hard. It's just a different personality. Like, Javon Holland, who's a safety, he said, a complete 180, that Anthony Weaver's a good person and that makes a difference. I mean, he's taking a shot basically saying he thought the guy was a bad guy in Fangio.
Yeah, you never know what happens, Mike. Like, that's every facility, right? Everybody, you never know, right? A player could feel like they cut somebody who shouldn't have felt had been cut, right? Or, there's so many things interwoven when it comes to the business side of sports and for these players. So, like, did he cut his best friend, or did he say something to him one day and he's having a bad day, or right? It's just like anything in life. So who knows? I don't know. Vic was good to me. He's quiet though. He is quiet, that's for sure. And, he's completely opposite of Nick Sirianni. I'll leave it at that, personality-wise.
All right, Colin Thompson, we know Memorial Day weekend's here, man. So you got to tell the people a couple Memorial Day weekend stops that are must-makes as we kick off the summertime here. The summer is about ready to start at the shore. Where are we rocking? Where are we rolling?
Well, I'm all Cape May, Mike, and that's no secret here. That's my spot. There's a couple good spots outside of Cape May. Wildwood Crest, not too far away. Went there the other day for breakfast. Turtle Gut, right there on the back bay, a really good spot. Cape May, though, we love Lobster House. Mayors is a great, great spot. Seaview Inn, that's your go-to Philly sports bar, dive bar, great camaraderie, cheers, if you will. Mad Batter, Sunday brunch, and just brunch in general is awesome. Taco Caballito on the beach, a great new place. Down there in Cape May. Congress Hall is always a great place to walk around and grab a drink and hang out. Let's see, there's a bunch of them. Harry's is awesome. Washington Street Mall for all your shopping. And then the original Fudge Kitchen's right there, too. One on the beach, one there. They have them a couple in Ocean City. So there's a bunch of spots, Mike. I'm a Cape May guy. I like how year-round Cape May is. I coach football down there with those guys, and it's a great community. Collier's Liquor Store, another great spot to go to, pick up your booze on your way, kind of right in the heart of town right there. So just some great people in that town that live there year round, that work there, what's off. And I love living there. I love visiting there. And there's just so many great places to eat and drink down there. You're looking for like a hoagie or a cheesesteak, West Side in West Cape May is a great little spot too. So you can't beat it, Mike. Jersey, this is the time of year, right?
This is it, man. Yeah, on Friday's show, I do my annual Friday before Memorial Day where I kind of start in Brigantine and make my way down all the way to Cape May, giving the people on our happy hour Friday a place to stop in, get a little brewski, get a little sandwich, get a little bite. But the summer starts now, and we're looking forward to it. It seems like it rushed up on us here. Like, it is May 23rd, and we are at Memorial Day weekend already. It's too early, it feels like,
I like it, Mike. There's never enough summer, never enough getting people down there, spending money, having fun. Another place to check out, too, looking for a place on the water. You can't beat, Harpoons on the Bay there, and North Cape May's nice, and then you got the Lobster House, the Schooner right behind that. It's great, Mike. This time of year is so fun. And you know what makes it fun, too, is this Phillies team being really good, really strong.
Well, that's a big thing.
Because,
we were talking about this earlier. Like this, I thought Rob Thompson gave a great answer last night when he said he was asked about the Mariners team that won 116, and his answer was, well, they didn't win anything. What do I care if we break that right? We didn't win anything. Like, he's got such the perfect temperament to
Philly loved it, Mike. Philly loved it. That's our guy. Mike, I met him bartending, quote unquote. I'm the worst. I'm a Z-list celebrity, but I was invited to bartend the Darren Dalton, the Dutch Dalton Foundation, a really cool foundation, Clearwater, Florida, right at the beginning of spring training. If you're down there, folks listening, go to this event. I think it's like $100, all you can eat and drink, and it goes to the Dutch Dalton Foundation. And all the coaches, the GMs, the former Phillies, we're all bartending together, like all right there, shoulder to shoulder. And Tomper came in. Coach, what can I get you behind the bar? I'll do a Miller Lite. What are you drinking? I'm like, I'll drink whatever. So we were sitting there BSing. My dad was sitting there too and just talking to him. Couldn't be a more down-to-earth, nice guy. I was telling him NFL free agent. He's like, listen, I got connections in the NFL too. You need something, let me know. Get my number from this and this person. Just like a normal guy. Normal is normal. I know people love that, especially in Philly. But you want to talk about relatable? That guy's really relatable, and that team loves playing for him, and it's fun to watch. And listen, they're going to go through a quiet period, and that's okay. But no better fan base, no better head coach, manager to pull them out of it.
All right, well, Colin Thompson, it is Memorial Day weekend. It is OTAs. We got Phillies baseball. It's a great time. The Phils are playing great. The OTAs are here, and the summer is here. And Colin Thompson was kind enough to spend some time with us right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, buddy, we'll talk to you soon.
Enjoy the long weekend, pal. Talk soon.
All right, yes, the long weekend is here. We appreciate that. We are looking forward to the long weekend here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Monday, we'll have a little baseball for you here on the Sports Bash. Of course, day off of the Sports Bash Monday, but we'll have a little baseball to fill the time for you as baseball and Memorial Day. Can't go any better than that, right? Put those two together, and what do you got? You got a little Americana, right? Baseball on Memorial Day. It's the Mets and the Dodgers playing on Memorial Day, and you can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Tonight, 8 o'clock, it is the Eastern Conference Finals. It is game number 2. It is Boston and Indiana, and you can hear the game only on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash, and of course, we've got a whole heck of a lot coming up, including Andrew DeCecco football at 4 today. We told you the details on John Ross. He has signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll get you more details on that for football at 4. But first, I want to tell you about my friend Rocco at Key Acura of Atlantic City. You're running out of time. I hate when this happens. You run out of time for these great deals. It's like, oh, we got these great deals for you, but I don't want you to run out of time on it. And that is over at Key Acura of Atlantic City on Tilton Road in EHT. You get a Acura loyalty customer can put $499 a month with just $49.95 down, or the Acura Integra $345 a month for $39.95 down. You can pick. That's it. No hidden fees, no extra charges, and that's only a Key Acura of Atlantic City, Tilton Road in Egg Harbor Township, your small but friendly dealer. And don't forget, convenient Saturday service hours. That's the key. Drop off your car. They have a loaner car for you, and you can get your stuff done, all your errands done while getting your car serviced. You need the oil change. You need all that good stuff. It's Key Acura of Atlantic City, Tilton Road in EHT. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City and streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
.32 on the Sports Bash Thursday. I'm Mike Gill. It's a 4-1 game, top 7 for the Phils. Zach Wheeler's still in the game. Wheeler gave up a home run early and then settled into that game. And he's now leading 4-1 in the 7th. 2 on, 2 outs. Off the glove there of Bryson Stott. They're going to try to score, and they do score. Oh, man. Nice try by Stott, but run comes home. We'll see if that's it for Zach Wheeler today. It's 4-2 now in the top of the seventh.
It's just frustrating. You know he doesn't make that mistake very often. So
was that a mistake?
I mean,
that's
it
not
came
a
out
mistake.
Glove,
I mean, come on.
It's going to go down as an error, probably.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think
that's
so?
not an error.
You don't think he should have caught that?
I think he would have liked to catch it. Do I think he should have caught it? Yeah, I mean, it hit his glove, but the guy went leaping. I mean, he's off his feet. He's horizontal. Up the middle. I
mean, I hear what you're saying, but I've seen them give errors to guys. For that
they're
before.
so bad on the official scoring, and they give everything a hit now. Nothing's an error. They don't want these guys. It's amazing. Everything's a base hit. They're trying to favor the hitter so much now, but that's not it. I mean, you can't assume he's going to catch a ball where he's diving up the middle horizontally. You could say if you asked him, should you have caught that ball? He would say yes.
Sure.
I mean, it was in his glove, but to get it in his glove, he had to make a diving attempt to get there. You're acting like the ball was hit right to him. Look, I'm the toughest grader there is. That's preposterous to say that. I'd be shocked if they gave him an error on that.
You're saying I'm being too tough.
Yes. I don't know that you're being too tough or you're just being egregiously bad optic on that. I mean, look at that ball and say it was an error. There's no way they gave him an error on that. No, they did not. They gave him a hit.
They gave him a hit?
Of course they gave him a hit. There's no time you're going to give a guy an error for diving the way that he did. I mean, he was on a surfboard trying to get to that ball. He did a great job of getting the leather on the ball.
He did.
But, they called it in.
I just feel like 9 times out of 10, he probably makes that play.
I think I'm agreeing with that part of it, is that he will tell you, I got my glove on the ball, I should have caught it. But to get his glove on the ball, he had to make a very athletic play.
Right.
So you can't assume because he made the athletic play that he's then supposed. That's how the official scorer has to look at that.
Got it.
By
the way, can I ask something real quick? I just saw Alvarado warming up. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Maybe if he has done this before, I don't remember. He was simulating throwing pitches with the glove in his hand. Have you ever is that a thing that pitchers do?
All the time.
They use their glove and do hard throws with their glove, like they're warming up?
Yeah.
Is there a reason? Does that help loosen the shoulder up or something?
I don't understand what you're asking me.
So
that's a very common thing, what you just showed me.
So a lot of pitchers have a glove in their hand.
In his pitching hand or his
pitching hand.
So he's got his glove in his left hand.
In his pitching hand. And he's throwing the glove, simulating throwing like he's pitching from the bullpen mound instead of throwing the ball.
I don't know. I mean, some guys use the different
bands?
The bands and stuff.
I've seen the bands.
Maybe he's just trying to get some weight in his arm just to keep his arm kind of loose. Yeah. I mean, everybody's a little quirky. By the way, bases loaded, 2 outs now. Real Muto went out to the mound, and they're having a little powwow out there. I wonder if they're trying to stall or they're going to let Wheeler kind of finish this inning out here.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I saw Alvarado. Now he's throwing like a normal person, like a normal bullpen pitcher would. But he literally was just doing winging throws with the glove in his hand. Maybe that does the weight warms it up quicker or something.
Yeah, I didn't see it, and I don't know that the way you're describing it. It just seems a little odd that it caught you so much. But
I just never seen that before.
Yeah, a lot of pitchers are weirdos.
Although
I would say that what is interesting here.
Are you the least weird of the weirdo pitchers?
I wouldn't say I had a lot of quirks.
They got out of it.
Like some of these guys, I would no, I did not have a lot of weird, quirky stuff.
You were just straightforward.
I did take a bottle of Icy Hot and would put it over my almost use the whole jar of it on my shoulder before games.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, yep.
Now, was that something that you did for a specific reason, or did it just become habit at that after a while?
just like different pitchers get sore in different areas. Like my shoulder would be really sore, and it was almost like trying to preemptively get to the soreness, like by putting the icy hot and let it kind of like
interesting.
So it's like I'm going to be so sore that, I mean, back then we're throwing like 180 pitches in a game, right? I mean, nobody was counting our pitches,
right?
And we were probably throwing literally. When I say 180, I'm not joking. 150, 180, probably routinely. You think about this. These guys now, they're throwing 80 to 90 pitches, and they're not getting out of the fifth inning.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
I routinely threw a complete game every time I pitched. I mean, there was very few times when you get pulled from the game early. So you're thinking, if it's taking these guys 85 to 90, and I will tell you, I did not have great control. So, they would label me as. Are
you saying that some of the hitters got up there and were maybe like, crossing their heart, hoping to God?
I would be labeled as effectively wild.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I could throw an upwards of, if these guys are throwing.
The hitters would get into the hitting box against Mike Gill and say, I too like to live dangerously.
Yeah. If these kids today are throwing 90 pitches in 5 innings, like these professionals are throwing 85, 90 pitches, they can't get through the 5th inning. How many pitches do you think I'm throwing? They're in 7 innings. So I'm probably throwing 150 to 180 pitches almost every time.
That's wild.
That you're going out there. So, yeah, my arm hurt in my shoulder area, not my elbow area.
Right, which is completely different.
Right. I mean, you say all the time, you hurt your arm because you're not using your legs enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, the more you use your legs, the less your arm should hurt.
Right.
So, it's funny, I have a picture, and there's a picture of me pitching. Maybe I can put it up on the screen for the viewers. But there's a picture of me pitching, and I was showing it to my coach last night because we were working with some of the pitchers. And he's like, oh, my God, like, look how low that you've got in that picture. And I said, yeah, my legs, after the game were over, my legs would be throbbing. My legs always hurt almost more than my arm did. But if you put more pressure on your legs, you don't have arm problems. These kids today, a lot of them have arm problems because they don't use their legs enough, and they're just trying to overthrow.
Right, they're just trying to whip the ball as hard as they can up there.
A lot more torque, yeah. They're trying to utilize the arm speed a lot more.
Well, for example, like Nolan
Ryan,
Ryan, he was famous he would train in the weight room legs 3 days a week, and he would ride in the stationary bike almost every single day to try to build up leg endurance.
I don't see kids do this at all anymore. I mean, it's funny when I played, at West Virginia, they're like, "How did you pitch?" I said, "I never actually got on the mound." Because they ran us so damn much, I thought I was going to faint. I felt like we were on the cross-country team.
Wow.
Like, when we got there, all we did was run.
And you were asking, what sport did I come out for again?
Wait a second. I'm a pitcher. Yeah, run. We ran, they call them pole to pole. I don't see the pitchers ever doing that hardly anymore at all. I ask the kids all the time, do you run at all? And they're like, looking at me like I'm a nut, and like, I said, listen, like, my first day at West Virginia, all I did was run. I got home from that practice and I said to my roommate, I never want to go back. Ever.
After the first day.
Well, all we did was run. I ran so much, I thought I was going to pass out. And he was cracking up. He's like, maybe you're just not cut out for this. I said, no, I don't think I am. So I went back the second day, and, we're practicing. This is like fall ball. And I'm up on the mound, and the ball came out of my hand like a puff of air. Like just, like nothing on it. And at that point I said, I think I'm done.
Wow.
Retired. That's it. So then many people ask me a lot, how did I get into this industry? That was what happened. I was pitching, got hurt. A buddy of mine was working at the campus radio station, and he was doing the play-by-play for, like the baseball team. And he's like, hey, you know a lot of these guys, like, why don't you come up and do the game with me? So I got into doing the color because, I had known a couple of the guys that were on the team.
Naturally.
And that's basically how I'm sitting here today.
Got it.
My arm could not go any longer.
Your arm gave up the ghost.
The arm told me, this is the end
of the world as we know it.
No, it was Jim Morrison. Come on, man, The Doors.
The Doors. Sorry,
bad reference by you.
Yeah, well.
By the way, Nick Castellanos goes yard.
Yes, he did. Kind of a funky swing on that ball, but he got it out.
A lot of his swings are very funky. That's why he's hitting 200.
That's true.
We head to the top of the 8th for the Phillies. As they lead it now 5-2. So they get that run back. Castellanos was a guy that I was going to talk more about today. How much longer? It's an interesting question. How much longer can you keep a guy in your lineup hitting under 200? But if everybody else is hitting,
right?
Can you mask it? The problem is he hits, like today he's in the 5-hole. Like you're hitting number 5 in a historic lineup right now, and his batting average now is 2 for 4 today. So he was hitting 200 before the day started. He's up to 206 after today. He hit his 5th home run of the year. I'm hoping. Look, I hope that Thompson's playing this right, and he says, look, I said before, this is why Thompson is the perfect guy for this team. And he knows, look, Nick just needs to just keep on playing, and even though he's struggling, we're winning with him, so let's not rock his boat.
So then is it similar for you, Mike, to last year when they looked at Schwarber and was like, look, we know he's under 200 for part of the year, but we're winning games with him as a leadoff hitter.
He's different.
Okay, he's different.
His on-base percentage is .350. Castellanos is not a high on-base percentage guy because he doesn't walk.
Right.
Schwarber, his batting average is low, but his on-base percentage right now is .350.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Castellanos' on-base percentage is .278.
But he's also the leadoff hitter.
Castellanos, right. He's not the leadoff hitter, but I'm saying you're comparing him to, like, Schwarber's always had a high on-base percentage.
Right.
That's why he hits leadoff.
Right.
His batting average isn't why they put him in the leadoff spot. It's his on-base percentage.
So then what is the purpose of being so patient with him?
Who?
Castellanos.
Oh, I just explained it. That I think they're saying, look, we don't want to rock the boat. We're winning kind of in spite of you, but instead of benching you and maybe putting you into more of a funk, let him try to just work his way through this. Like, you saw the reverse of this last year. He was the all-star at the all-star break last year. He was the guy who had the best first half, and then he cooled off in the second half. I think the Phillies are just hoping, hey, look, everybody around him is kind of producing. Let's let him just work his way through this. And right now, it's seemingly working. Today, he's 2 for 4 with that home run that's given him a 5-2 lead. And, hey, look, I certainly have been critical of Castellanos in this particular season. I think he's maybe getting a little too long of a leash to just that's a rite of passage that he's written in the lineup every single day. I think the Phillies have other options. This team has shown they're 26 deep. I don't know that he deserves to get the call every day. But like I said, this is why Thompson is the perfect guy for this team. Maybe he just knows the temperament of saying, you know what, let's just stick with him. Because if we stick with him on the back end of this, we'll prosper.
It's just so weird to me because of the fact that, like, historically, like, when a guy doesn't have a good batting average, he brings something else to the table. Like, those years, like, you had Adam Dunn hitting, like, 45 home runs, but he's hitting, like, 205. You're like, well, he hits a home run every other day, so who cares? You know?
That's a good point, is that a lot of these guys, low batting average, like Schwarber. Low batting average, high on-base percentage, a lot of home runs.
Right.
You mentioned Adam Dunn. There's a lot of guys throughout history, 220 hitters, but they hit 35 home runs.
Right.
Right now, Castellanos is not doing anything. He's not hitting home runs.
I think he's on pace at, 28, I think it is this year?
28 what?
Homers.
Are you out of your mind? He's got 4.
Well, you said his 5th.
All right, he's got 5. He's not hit 28 home runs. There's no way. He's going to have to go on an epic tear to get to 28 home runs. He had 4 coming into today.
4 into today.
Yeah. So if he hits 4 each quarter.
That's 16?
Yeah. He gets to 28. You let me know. That ain't happening. That's not happening. All right. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. This hour, Brought to you by Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning. Broadley's your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleys.net. This is the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle and streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
It's with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Top 8 at the bank, 5-2 Phils over the Rangers. It's Jose Alvarado's turn to try to shut down the Rangers. Actually hit the first guy. He's got 2 down here in the 8th, though, trying to put this game in the 9th. Who's going to get the save opportunity? Is it, I don't know, Kirkring, probably Hoffman, right? Kirkring threw yesterday. By the way, he just struck out the last batter of that inning there.
I was going to say, I'm assuming it's Hoffman comes in the 9th here, so.
I would think so, too. A fun story about Hoffman. I was listening to Bob Wankel on his podcast, Crossed Up, and they had Jeff Hoffman on as a guest. And he was telling the story about how he was pitching at Lehigh Valley. And he had been pitching pretty well or whatever, and, like, they took him out of a game. He's like, what am I doing? Like, what happened here? So I guess they pulled him from the game, and they were like, they want to send you to Citizens Bank Park because they want you to pitch against Bryce Harper. This is when Bryce Harper was coming back from the injury. And basically he said, I'm pitching. It's me against Harper. He's coming back from the elbow surgery last year. And that's where they found him. Like, he was one-on-one in this empty ballpark, and they liked his stuff, and he goes and strikes Harper out, and he's like, that's how they kind of found me, was I wasn't pitching, like, my numbers weren't great at Lehigh Valley. They just liked my stuff, and when they saw my stuff, I strike out Harper. That's when I got my shot. And that's who's probably going to be closing this game out today. We'll see who they turn to. Stick there. We'll update you on the Phils, but coming up next, the Eagles have signed a former first-round pick. Will he have a role on this team? Find out next on the Sports Bash Football at 4.
97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Andrew DeCecco, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
We're never satisfied. That hunger for more. That hunger for more. I have it. Everyone has it.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, whatever the sport, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, Andrew DeCecco is here, and he has been at Eagles OTAs. Is there a difference around the Eagles at OTAs this year from last year? We'll get into that. Also, the Eagles made a signing today. John Ross has signed a 1-year deal. Yeah, you remember John Ross. He ran a 4.240 at the 2017 NFL Combine. He was a first-round pick, 9th overall from the Cincinnati Bengals. Played with the Giants, has had a lot of injuries. He retired. He's back. He was at Eagles rookie minicamp, and now I don't know if he impressed us so much that he got the contract or because Parker retired, they allowed him, or I don't want to say allowed him, but ended up signing him. We'll get more details on that. Eagles OTAs from our boy Andrew DeCecco, who's with us now for another edition of Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike, what's happening, man? Good to talk to you.
As always, my friend. And any different vibe around the Eagles OTAs this year as opposed to, got new coordinators. Team came off a little disappointing ending to the season. You sensing a little different vibe at this year's OTAs?
Well, it was a little difficult to gauge. Again, this was just a one day that was open to us, and it was an hour and 10 minutes. But it's important to note that a lot of the roster has been largely turned over. So a lot of these players weren't around for that skid. So you're kind of getting a fresh perspective from a lot of them. And then for the veterans, you're able to kind of recalibrate, and sort of reinvigorating to see new coordinators there. And you sort of get the sense that there's a lot of buzz, that a new season's on the way, and it seems like everybody's a little bit more rejuvenated.
Yeah, you take a look at this team and the questions that need to be answered. I don't know how much get answered at this training camp, but let's start at wide receiver. In your opinion, they lose Parker. He retires abruptly today. They announced they're going to sign John Ross. What's that position look like? Because OTAs is a spot that you can kind of see those guys. You do a lot more with the skill players. So thoughts on that position now and where it kind of sits without Parker and the decision to bring Ross in?
Well, without Devontae Smith, who was absent, and again, these OTAs were voluntary, and you really, and Devontae Parker retiring, who was obviously a long shot to even make the team, but an experienced wide receiver nonetheless, who is going to challenge for a role, you really see the lack of depth that the Eagles had at wide receiver, because when the Eagles were in 11 personnel to start the 7-on-7s, out trots A.J. Brown, and Paris Campbell goes to the slot. And then you have Joseph Ngata, who was the other outside wide receiver, a second-year holdover who spent the entirety of last season on the practice squad as a rookie. But beyond that, it's a lot of the future signings. It was Jacob Harris and Shaq Davis. Britton Covey was there on the second team slot. So, I mean, there's a lot of unfamiliar names there. Johnny Wilson, the 6th-round pick. There's a lot of inexperience there. And I think it sort of – the Eagles had to do something there. And what they had, especially on the outside, and that's where John Ross comes into play, bringing in somebody with some experience who can play on the outside. Yeah, he was there for the tryout. He didn't really – he obviously wasn't signed coming out of the tryout, but he has some familiarity there with the coaching staff. It was a 2-day tryout, and he has some speed to offer. So it's an interesting signing. Obviously, a long shot. This is someone who has not appeared in the NFL, in an NFL game since 2021. 62 catches, 11 touchdowns, and shy of 1,000 yards for his career. But it's someone that can come in and competently give you some snaps and occupy and sort of give some quality reps to the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be, if Parker's out, did you view Parker as, I mean, most people said, hey, he was a depth piece for the outside guys because they didn't really have that last year. When A.J. Brown didn't play in the playoffs, they went to Quez Watkins. Okay, bring in Devontae Parker. It doesn't have to have a huge role. Somebody gets hurt. We have a veteran player now. John Ross isn't a guy that you think they're looking at for that. I mean, do they say, hey, hopefully we catch lightning in a bottle, he could be a slot guy? Or how do you kind of make, read how that all kind of materialized?
Well, I think that they need an experienced player. Ideally, they have a lot of young depth there that, sometimes you don't want to necessarily waste a rep on a mistake. You want to get a veteran in there who can complement what they already have. You just lost a veteran to retirement. I don't think he's going to challenge for a roster spot, but someone who can give you a vertical element and test your young secondary, someone who can help your young secondary and in terms of what to look for and how to deal with some of that sort of speed. So I think it could be beneficial. Again, this is someone who has been out of the NFL for a couple of seasons now. So to expect him to make the roster would be a little presumptuous, but I think that there's going to be some quality reps that he can bring to the forefront and help the defense in a unique way.
Give me the guy who's not the long shot, but the kind of under the radar of that group that possibly, can be a surprise piece at wide receivers. They're one of these younger, unknown players that you have your eye on.
Well, I've gotten to know Joseph Ngata a little bit over the past year or so, talking to him throughout the season, checking in on his development. I spoke to him in March. He looks like he got a little bit stronger. He doesn't have the fluidity or the burst off the line, so I wonder how he's going to be able to separate that. Remember, that was a problem in the preseason games last summer. But to me, the long shot to keep an eye on would be Jacob Harris, the 27-year-old future signing. He runs a sub-4.4, 6'5", former 4th-round pick of the Rams, and he's a really good special teams player above all, which kind of reminds me of the Tyreek Cleveland signing last season. Another guy who's played in the NFL, Jacob Harris, has played in 18 games. So it's interesting in that sense. And you could see he moves a lot better than going after when he was following Ngata in the workouts, a lot more fluid. And he got open a couple of times, couldn't corral a couple of those deep shots yesterday. But I still think that he can make things interesting. You know more than anyone that there's always the Mr. training camp, and it's always the big body wide receivers. It's probably going to be Johnny Wilson as far as draftees go. but it wouldn't surprise me if Jacob Harris makes a run for that title as well.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday with Moshe here on Football at 4. Andrew DeCecco is our guest today from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. You tweeted this out about corner and that whole battle. I find this to be fascinating. Let's start with no James Bradberry today. I don't know if there's a message there or what. Obviously, his name is very much in limbo, we all kind of think. But if he's here, you would imagine he's the top of the depth chart. Quinyon Mitchell's here. You got Cooper DeJean. What did we learn about that position today?
I think Quinyon Mitchell, to me, was one of the standouts of that practice that we got to see. Cooper DeJean played second-team nickel, played third-team outside corner. I thought both players acquitted themselves well. They're fast. They're athletic. That really stood out. James Bradberry, to your point, Mike, yes, he would be the starting corner if he's there. I wouldn't make too much of him being there or not being there. These are voluntary. And for all we know, he could have been there Monday. He could have been there today. He could be there next week, or very easily mandatory mini camps if he's not one of those, the June 1st designations. So I think that what I've seen from the young corners yesterday, and again, I want to reemphasize that it was an hour and 10 minutes, and they were in shorts and a jersey, but they looked the part. They held up well on their end, and I'm really excited to see. And by the way, Keely Ringo wasn't there, and Eli Ricks got nicked up early in practice, so he really wasn't even out there for the 7-on-7s, which impacted the fact that Isaiah Rodgers was the starting corner opposite Darius Slay. Context is important there, but I'm really excited to see who rises to the top in this battle. I foresee the Eagles keeping 7 corners, and that to me is going to be the most interesting battle to follow. All
right, let's dial back to the beginning. Mitchell and DeJean, and just kind of give us. I think you said Mitchell was the standout today. Cooper, it sounded like
yesterday was the day that was open. It was closed today.
Gotcha. Okay, so he was the standout yesterday. Did you get any? Because we keep talking about what because Brian Baldinger was on with Chris Long on the Greenlight podcast, and he made an interesting point. Like, hey, Vic Fangio has a plan for this guy. Okay, I agree with you. You trade up to 40 to grab him. You got a plan for him. I'm having a hard time finding the road to what that plan is. Outside corner seems like it's going to be a tough spot. Looks like there's a lot of competition at the inside slot position. I mean, if Avonte Maddox is here and healthy, you got a chance to see him. I mean, if he's healthy, he's pretty good. He wouldn't be usurped because of performance. He would probably be gone because of health concerns more than anything. Tyler Hall has experience. So where is that road for you? Is it a newly created position, a made up position? Just get him on the field, figure it out. Or is there some kind of defined role that we're going to find for him?
Well, I view Cooper as a day one slot option. I think that's his clearest path to playing time. Avonte Maddox, remember, when he returned from injury last season, teams were targeting him. He looked rusty. He looked like he maybe even lost a step. So you have to see how he fares when the pads come on. But obviously a very valuable player who can contribute at safety. And again, I wouldn't make too much out of yesterday. This is a new coordinator who's really trying to gauge what he has in terms of his personnel. So maybe you're trying to see, if you're Vic Fangio, is he more adept at playing safety at this stage of his career? How does he look at nickel? And just see where you want these guys to fit when mandatory minicamp rolls around in June. But I don't know that you want to go into it banking on the health of Avonte Maddox, because if it doesn't pan out, which history shows is a likely scenario, well, then where do you go? And I think you have to, it behooves the Eagles to train Cooper DeJean in that role. Tyler Hall is a player who I have actually making the 53 in my way too early 53. So they have options there, and knowing the fact that Avonte Maddox was out on the open market for a month, there wasn't much interest aside from the Saints showing minor interest. He ended up having to come back on a one-year deal, a modest one-year deal with the Eagles. I think that speaks to how he's maybe viewed right now, and he's far from a lock to make the roster.
All right, we're talking with Andrew. Let's get a couple guys that maybe caught your attention so far on these couple of days here. Let's start at the wide receiver room because we did talk about maybe a long shot there. But are any of the guys that you like at that wide receiver position that maybe stood out that we're not thinking about?
Paris Campbell, Mike, is a player who seemingly has developed an early rapport with Jalen Hurts. He was peppered with targets yesterday, and a lot's going to be asked of him because at 26 years old, he's one of the few veterans in that room, and he doesn't have a lengthy resume of having a clean bill of health. So that's going to be very important. But I was very encouraged with what I saw from him yesterday. He caught the ball really well, looks the part. He has inside-outside versatility. So, and he's played a lot of football. So at this level, so having him as your number 3 right now, at least written in pencil, is worth something to me. So he stood out as far as wide receivers go. On the defensive side, I would say Devin White really caught my attention. He looks a little bit bigger than the 237 in which he's listed, but he moved really well sideline to sideline, made a really nice play down the left sideline, defending Saquon Barkley on a wheel route, got a hand in there to break that up. I think that the signing was very polarizing initially, but I think he's going to be just fine if Vic Fangio is able to harness his freelancing tendencies and get him to play within the structure of the defense. And then Isaiah Rodgers at corner was another player who, he did get the first-team reps, and I mentioned that Kelee Ringo and Eli Ricks were unavailable for different reasons, but he broke on the ball well, had a nice pass deflection to Dallas on a pass intended for Dallas Goedert that Hurts threw. He gave up an early completion to A.J. Brown on a comeback. But other than that, he was active and he was around the football, and I want to see how he's able to acquit himself when the pads come on and you have 2 more outside corners returning back to the lineup, which may kick him inside to play nickel, which he hasn't had a lot of experience playing in his career.
Yeah, I know a lot of people keeping an eye on all that stuff there. Good stuff right now from Andrew DeCecco, his OTA notebook. You take a look at. Let's get real quick. Offensive line doesn't get a lot of talk during OTAs. It's a lot of 7-on-7. But some of the new faces there, Becton. Any shot that you saw what they're doing with him, and I guess right guard with Tyler Steen getting those first reps.
Yeah, Mekhi Becton's really big, in case anybody was wondering. He's as advertised, very dense. He's a large individual, and he dwarfs most people that he stands next to. He definitely holds his own with Jordan Mailata in that regard. But, the value of having someone like that who can play either tackle spot and possibly guard in a pinch, seeing how big he was in person, I have some doubts whether or not he could transition inside. But a really valuable signing who's going to be a Jeff Stoutland reclamation project. Tyler Steen, they had at the podium yesterday, and we got to hear from him and the different transitions that were required to play guard from tackle. He mentioned how instrumental Cam Jurgens was playing next to him, not only just for him, but in its totality for the offensive line, how bright he is at helping different guys in different ways. So I thought that there's some good things that Tyler Steen said. And again, you're not really able to gauge much from an offensive lineman in a jersey and shorts. That's where you want to see how they acquit themselves when the pads come on.
Yeah, no doubt. Everybody loves hearing the insight, but they are in, pads, shorts, nothing crazy yet. But you mentioned Devin White as a guy, Zach Baun. We heard his name from Vic Fangio, Van Sumeren. No Nakobe Dean. Is that just a precautionary thing? When you tweeted out the linebacker pairings, I said, no Dean. Is he still kind of getting back from that injury?
Yeah, so Dean was there stretching, and he took part in the individual drills, but not the 7-on-7, as he works his way back from the foot injury that he sustained late in the season. Now, I think a lot of folks are too quick to write off Nakobe Dean. I don't think that that's fair. I think he deserves an opportunity and look, this is year 3, so it very much feels like a make or break at a crossroads type of situation for him. But I think he really deserves a look with a new defensive coordinator who may be able to optimize what he does really well. Smart guy, cerebral guy. You'll want it to work out for him because if he's able to put it together, you're going to have one heck of an intellectual linebacker who's instinctual and can get guys lined up and can kind of direct traffic back there. So we'll have to see how that goes. But there's a lot riding on Nakobe Dean, and without him there, Zach Baun took inside linebacker reps with the first team alongside Devin White, which was pretty interesting. Although we did hear Vic Fangio mention Zach Baun first, and we thought maybe that was just him grasping at names. But no, there was some legitimacy to it.
Yeah, we know that Baun's name came up and was a little surprising when we heard that there. So we'll see how that kind of materializes. What do you think of the quarterbacks behind Jalen Hurts, by the way?
I thought Kenny Pickett was on the money yesterday. I was actually really impressed. And Tanner McKee, too, for that matter. fouling up Alberto Cuebanam over the middle. Tanner McKee had the throw of the day and on a seam ball to E.J. Jenkins, who was a future signing, right with Jeremiah Trotter trailing in coverage. Thought Alberto had a nice catch from Kenny Pickett. Kenny Gainwell had a really nice reception from Kenny Pickett on a tight throw down the sideline with Van Sumeren in coverage. And Kenny Pickett threw a really nice ball to Jacob Harris down that same sideline, in which Andre Sam, I believe it was, the undrafted safety from LSU, was in coverage.
All right, man. A couple more real quick before we get you out of here. Hearing all the stuff is I know Mosher wanted to know if you were charting passes yesterday.
he knows I don't do that. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, no, but the one thing is too, Isaiah Rodgers. Everybody just kind of waiting to see how they're using him. Everybody, and you've talked a lot about this. Everyone assumes he's a slot kind of guy. He was on the outside though for yesterday. Was wondering, did he look a guy like he hadn't played football in over a year, or is he now a guy that hey, let's raise our eyebrows a little wider for this guy when he gets to camp?
Well, Mike, I'll say this, and going into it, I always told folks to temper their expectations for Isaiah Rodgers, who many were sort of depicting to be the second coming of Deion Sanders, and then sort of became an afterthought after the selections of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the draft. And I pinpointed him as somebody that I wanted to see yesterday specifically because I wanted to see how that year off, if there was any sort of any rust that needed or implementation, and how he was going to fare. But you know what? He looked the part. He was active. He was fluid. He was around the football, and he was a little bit bigger, at least from my vantage point, than I envisioned him being. And he's listed at about 5'10", 175. But so he was cast as an outside corner yesterday due to shortage at the position, with obviously Kelee Ringo and Eli Ricks not there and not able to go. But I think that the true test will be later this summer when he's probably, I say that because we're not 100% sure how they envision using him. He's probably going to have to transition inside, which now it's a crowded house there with Tyler Hall, Avonte Maddox, Cooper DeJean, Sean Stevens. There's a lot of guys there that can do it. Eli Ricks played some slot there last year, although he's an outside corner by trade. So it's far from a slam dunk that he's a lock to make the roster, but yesterday was very encouraging, encouraging development in that direction.
All right, last one for Andrew. Your first impressions of Kellen Moore and his offense.
I was very enamored with the pre-snap motion and the varied formations. Jalen Hurts under center, a lot of the passing to the running back, particularly Kenny Gainwell. It took a shot down the sideline to Saquon Barkley. Saquon lined up in the slot on one occasion. So you like the new wrinkles, but I reminded folks all day yesterday in my observations, and I'm saying it now. Yesterday was May 22nd, so you don't want to get too carried away one way or the other. But I will say this, Mike, it was really encouraging and invigorating to see an offense that wasn't static, and I think that's a sign for things to come. It's really exciting to see a fast-paced offense with motion and some creativity.
All right, there you go. Right from Andrew DeCecco, who was at OTAs at the NovaCare. And, of course, the Eagles, they have a couple more left to go before they shut it down for the season, for the off-season there. And, of course, we'll have it for you here on Football at 4. And the guys over at Inside the Birds, Andrew has a real long piece about all of what he observed over at InsideTheBirds.com. So check that out. And, of course, right here on Football at 4. Adam will be on tomorrow. Andrew's back next week, and we got you on Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. All right, my friend, we'll talk to you, bud.
Mike, have a great day.
You do the same, and we'll look forward to always talking to Andrew DeCecco here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. The Phillies have swept the World Series champion Texas Rangers 5-2. The final in that one, they get the save from Jeff Hoffman. It was a home run from JT Realmuto earlier. They were down in that game, 1-0, then JT tied it up. Nick Castellanos actually went yard. Christian Pache had really the big hit of the day. Who was the guy who, did they talk to somebody after the game? I'm wondering who was the player of the game today. I would have given it to Pache for the triple.
They were actually talking to Hoffman.
Oh, okay. He got the save.
He still got the ice water dumped on him, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, getting the save. He doesn't get the save all the time. He's in the closing role today. That's fair. But Pache, I thought, had the hit of the game. I mean, that triple.
The triple was huge.
Was the one, right? I mean, that was the one that cleared the bases and gave them the lead. And it made it 3-1. They ended up winning the game 5-2. So that's the game-winning RBI in the fourth inning by Christian Pache.
I don't know, maybe Pache ran to the shower for anyone could get a hold of him. So.
Well, I was laughing before. I said the guy who's the interpreter, he's been getting a workout.
Yes.
They've been using a different, guy.
He's been earning his money.
He absolutely has. So maybe they just figured, hey, that guy needs the day off. They've been giving, between him and Rojas and Sosa, he's been getting a lot of work. But it's good to see. And
look, start asking for a pay raise.
Yeah, dude, you know what's funny? We were trying to find out what those guys get paid. Well, because of the whole Ipe thing, I think he got paid more than most. But I don't think those guys, the interpreters, I don't think they make a whole heck of a lot of money. You think I say what a cool job. You literally travel around, watch baseball, and just
translate.
I mean, and I laugh all the time because they're getting the questions asked to them. They're asking the question. Then the guys answer it. I'm like, how much is he leaving out here?
That's always been the joke when it comes to a lot of the stuff, for example, like in the UFC, where it's like, you got the guys who speak Portuguese, and the guy who speaks Spanish, and the guy who speaks Russian, and you're always wondering, is he actually giving us the translation, or is he giving us the version?
They have to, edit out somewhere. Maybe he forgets some of the stuff that he would
Right.
Somebody says something to you, you're kind of like, wait, what did he say back then? I don't remember. I mean, you're trying to, but especially it's been fun watching them, though.
Especially when the answer that was given by the player or the athlete is way longer than the answer given by the translator. And you're like, there's no way he only said that.
29-6, last 35 games, best record in baseball. Jeff Passan tweeted, they just finished a sweep of the defending World Series champions. They've won 29 of 35. They're 37-14. It really doesn't matter who your opponent's records are if you're emasculating them every single day. And my response to that would be, what team do you want them to play that is any good? There is no team that you would be happy, and I'm not saying the Phillies fans are complaining, I don't think Philly fans are like, hey, they haven't really played anybody. The league stinks. They're beating up a bad league of teams. That is fair to say. But nobody else is winning at the same clip they are.
Right.
It's a Sports Bash. When we come back, it's today's Nuggets. Knicks Nuggets are up next here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City, and streaming live video on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
We have the perfect.
With everything you have on your plate, earning your degree online seems impossible. But at Grand Canyon University, we specialize in helping you fit a master's degree in education into your busy day. Your graduation team, led by your own GCU counselor, provides you with the personal support you need to succeed. Achieve your goals with a plan and team behind you. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Visit gcu.edu.
Traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
4:32 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN on your Thursday, one day away from the Happy Hour Friday. But first, we got Knicks Nuggets. Can't think about Happy Hour Friday. We got to get the Nuggets in on the Thursday edition. Knicks Nuggets here on the Sports Bash. They're brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. There he is. Knicks Nuggets are back with Nick Earnshaw, host of the Shift podcast and producer of The Locker Room Saturdays on 97.3 ESPN. We got a Philly sweep. We can't complain about anything in this town anymore. Come on.
No, we can't complain about anything, Mike. This Phillies 5-2 win today. Now, this is courtesy of NBC Sports Phillies, where I got this little nugget from. 7th sweep of the year, 7 total all of last year. They are on an incredible pace right now, Mike. And we're going to hear about the schedule. I get it. They've played teams that are under 500. But, you beat the defending World Series champs. There's something to say about that. This was an impressive series, impressive win today. Once again, Zach Wheeler on the bump going 7 innings. 5 Ks, 2 earned runs. He was fantastic once again. These pitchers that keep going deep into games. But, Mike, your guy hit a big home run today. How about Castellanos going deep?
Yeah, it was a kind of a pad the game. They scored one to get back within 4-2. Then you hit the home run to make it 5-2. So it was gave them, it was an answer, if you will. He did have 2 hits today. He was 2 for 4. Yeah. Raised his average up to, I think, like 206 on the season, for Casty.
As our buddy the Schweiner would say on Saturday mornings, he's over the Mendoza line, all right? That's okay. As long as he's over the Mendoza line, that's all right.
He's been hovering. He's been on. He was like 200 entering the day. I think he's up to like 206 after today. 206 he is right now. Hit that home run. And, he scored a couple runs last night. I think he walked twice in the game last night. That's a good sign.
Yeah. Now with the Phillies, we've talked about the schedule. That's been a big topic of conversation, right? That'll be my first nugget here.
I just don't know. Okay, go ahead. If you're going down that road with the nugget, let me hear what you have to say.
Yeah. All right. So they've had a fairly, I guess easy schedule.
I think they've had, statistically speaking, the easiest schedule in baseball.
Yes. Under 500, the majority of the teams they have played other than the Braves to start the season. Okay, fine. They have the Rockies coming up, the Giants, the Cardinals, then they have the Brewers. They're under the best 51 game start of their entire franchise, right? Are we going to do that every game, by the way? Are we going to say it's the best start in 52 games, 53 games, 54 games? I think that's what we're going to do. But are we going to just pretend they're not this contender? Like they're a good team anyway, but aren't they supposed to beat up on the bad teams, Mike? Like I don't get the argument. They just beat the defending champs. Okay, they're under 500. They were 500 coming into this series and they beat them 3 times.
Listen, this argument it doesn't carry any weight in this conversation for this reason. There are no good teams to play. This is like the Eagles a couple of years ago. Well, they haven't played anybody. There was nobody. The NFL was just was not very good a couple of years ago, and the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. They played Colorado. Well, listen, Colorado's 16-32. I get it. Well, part of the reason they're 16-32 is because the Phillies swept them. All right, if they play someone else, maybe Colorado's right. But Arizona's under 500. San Francisco's under 500. San Diego's a game over 500. Cincinnati, 10 under 500. The Pirates, 5 under 500. The Cardinals are under 500. Miami's under 500. The Mets are under 500. The Nationals are. You can't play other teams. They're the only teams available. So, okay. The Phillies haven't played the Brewers. They haven't played the Cubs. And they haven't played the Dodgers. If I told you they played those 3 teams, would you be like overly impressed if their record was like 3 games less? If they, you know what I'm saying? Like they're just no good teams. Like in the AL West, Texas is under 500. Houston's under 500. The Angels are under 500. Oakland's under 500. In the Central, the White Sox are under 500. The Tigers are under 500. The Twins are 3 games over 500. And then you have Cleveland and Kansas City. So you got 2 good teams in the Central. And in the East, Toronto's under 500. Tampa's under 500. Boston's 2 games over 500. There's just no good teams. So, yes, they're beating up bad teams. But there's nobody to play that would be, like, impressive. Like, there's only, I counted up. On the National League side, I think there's 4 good teams. Philadelphia, Atlanta, L.A., and Milwaukee. Everybody else would probably be mediocre or not good. And on the American League side right now, you got the Orioles, you got the Yankees, you've got Cleveland, and you've got the Royals. And do we really think the Royals are like an elite team? Probably not. This is coming out of nowhere. Other than those 4 teams, the entire American League is either mediocre or bad. So nobody's beating anybody that's any good. And yet the Phillies are the only team winning 72% of their games. Everybody else has played a schedule very capable of them to win 72% of their games. The Phillies are the only one doing it.
Yeah, and they've drastically improved since last year. They're beating up on the bad teams. Like I mentioned when I started the segment today, this is their 7th sweep of the year. They're not just taking 2 of 3. They're sweeping these teams. They're putting them away.
I agree.
And they had 7 total last year. So, that argument, they haven't really played anybody. Major League Baseball is in a mediocre spot right now. There's not a ton of teams that are like above and beyond fantastic, right? I mean, listen, the Yankees are right behind the Phillies with the best record in baseball, 35-17. Great. But if you look at the National League, it's a bunch of mediocre teams for the most part, other than really the Dodgers. I mean, the Brewers, I don't know if I'm totally sold on them completely yet. And then you have Atlanta, who's played 6 less games than the Phillies. You can't change the schedule. The Phillies are doing what they've been supposed to do. They're off to an historic start. I can't complain. You can't complain that they've played nobody. They just beat the defending champs. They'll have the Brewers coming up, et cetera, et cetera. But this is how the schedule is. Sometimes you play these bad teams, you have these stretches, but they're doing what they're supposed to do.
And listen, if they weren't beating these teams and they weren't sweeping them, their record, they'd be winning 63% of their games. They still be a good team. That's different. They're not a good team. Right now, they have been a great team, and that's okay that they haven't, there's a difference. If you would play, look, it's like the NFL. If one year your division plays the NFC North and they're the worst division in football and you win all 4 of those games, and then there's 3 other divisions that are really, really strong. Well, you've played against a bunch of teams that, were the weaker division while other teams are playing against a different division. Their schedule is more difficult. In baseball, everybody's playing the same teams, and none of them are any good. Like, the whole league, it's unbelievable. The whole league, even the Brewers. Do we really think the Brewers are really all that good? I mean, they're 9 games over.
That's my point.
Right, they're 9 games over 500.
Brewers at all.
They're 9 games over 500. I don't think anybody thinks they're any good either, but they're the best team of what that Central Division has right now. So, look, enjoy it. Let's not nitpick this because there's really no good teams to play.
No, and listen, the Phillies are doing what they're supposed to do. The teams are mediocre. Everyone's hanging around 500 other than like the Phillies, Yankees, and Dodgers, and throw the Braves in there for the most part. So, just enjoy the ride while they're hot right now because, listen, there's ebbs and flows to a Major League Baseball season. It's May. We're only heading into June. There's still a lot of games left, a lot of time left. Phillies are also doing this with the injury bug hitting them at times as well. So that's been impressive, too.
I will say this, too. I love what Rob Thompson said last night. He was asked about the Mariners thing, and he said they didn't win anything. That's a great mindset to have. But I will also tell the fans, some of your favorite teams, the 93 Phillies, they didn't win anything either, right? They went to the World Series, but you'll always remember that team. The 09 Phillies went to a World Series. You'll remember that team. The 01 Sixers went to the finals. You'll remember that team. You are allowed, if this team has an unbelievable regular season, a historic, memorable one, it could still be a fun season. Yes, you want to win the World Series, and that's the big picture, but don't minimize what they're doing because, what if they don't win the World Series? Let that play out in October. Enjoy this summer that we're about to have.
Yeah, enjoy the ride. Even the 2011 Phillies, right? They won 100-plus games, got bounced in the first round. And the 2022 Phillies, they go to the World Series, didn't win the whole thing, but they snuck into the playoffs, had a great run. So enjoy it while it lasts. They're off to a great start. It'll make summer much more fun at the bank for sure. All right. Nugget number 2, got to move along. And I'm sticking with baseball here, but kind of the overarching game itself. All right. So Rob Manfred comes out and says there will be no robot umps heading into next year. I know it's been a big topic of conversation around the sports world about officiating, about umpires as well. According to Rob Manfred, I'm paraphrasing here, there was not much progress in the minors this year and over the past couple of years to say, hey, we're going to bring this into the major leagues. We've already had the changes with the pitch clock, et cetera, but they could bring the ABS system to the bigs where players could challenge balls and strikes on the spot. Mike, I don't know how much you've been paying attention to the minors and having the robot umpires, but what would you make about how quickly they implement this kind of robot ump type thing into the majors?
The minor league thing, I think, is fine. You hit your head real fast. I mean, it's as fast as it can be. I mean, all right, you got it wrong, switch it. I mean, it's almost instantaneous. Like, to me, if you want to keep the umpire back there, and I have no problem with that, but get it right. Like, if you want to challenge it. I don't even think you need to challenge it. I think you could literally have somebody in your ear say, you got that wrong, switch it. I mean,
I think it's that easy.
Yeah, it's that easy. It's like the guy calls a strike. If it's egregiously wrong, the guy on the mic says, nope, that's a ball. You were way off on that, dude. Like, I don't know what the big deal is with this. Why is that so hard to implement? If you're doing it at the minor leagues, you have a better system in lower level of baseball than you do at the highest level of baseball. It makes no sense.
Yeah, Rob Manfred's had an interesting tenure as the commissioner implementing stuff. And I think they've just tried changing things so fast, so quickly. I mean, even with the pitch clock, they docked a couple of seconds off this year. Like, I think you got to leave things out and see how they progress over a couple seasons. I don't know. That's just where I'm at with that.
I will tell you, I was not a fan of the pitch clock. I was like completely against. Now I'm a pitcher. Okay, I don't want to be.
You're talking to a former pitch clock operator here in the minors, Mike. Come on.
Yeah.
I got a soft spot for the pitch clock.
I did not like the pitch clock. No, I said I'm a pitcher, so I get it. I don't want to be rushed. The pitcher, the whole deal is you control the game. I can slow you down. I can speed you up. I don't like the pitch clock in terms of the strategy and all that stuff, but I have not noticed it at all. Like, to me, it's almost out of sight, out of mind now. I don't even notice that the pitch clock is like a part of the game. One of the things I was concerned about was in the playoffs, like, would that take away some of the drama, some of those moments? And I you know what? I don't know that it did. I don't remember being like, so the pitch clock to me has been a welcomed addition. My girlfriend's like, I watch baseball a lot more enjoyable than, so that doesn't bother me. So I don't know how the improvement of that would prevent them from improving the
calls on the field.
The calls on the field. If you can get them right and make it a more enjoyable product, then why wouldn't you do that? That's where, like, the NBA stuff, we complain about the referees all the time, and like, to resist doing that, I said this about the NBA the other night. I said the NBA loves the fact that we're talking about this because now their sport is getting talked about, and there's nothing they're going to do about it. People are going to watch it, but you're going to complain about how bad the refs are, but you're talking about basketball. It's almost like they don't want to do it because it's like if you get it perfectly, then they might not talk about our game. And a bad call is a good thing for us because it gets people talking about our game.
Right. It's free promotion for the game, right? Like, you're talking about
the concept of no publicity. The concept of no publicity is bad publicity.
Exactly. Now I got to ask though. Now, as a viewer, this is a little bit off the subject of robot umps, but as a viewer, do you like having the box in the middle of the plate when you're watching it on TV? Do you think that kind of has really honed in on the umpires and why this robot ump conversation has come to the forefront? Because that could be a very real possibility. Because I'm not a big fan of having the box there. I like when they show the replay of like the AI type thing, whatever. But I don't like having the box there while I'm watching the game. I think they should do away with that.
I agree. I think the box is hurt. It hurts the umpire. It makes them look foolish sometimes. And I think that box, I talk about this all the time. Alec Boehm, you can't have the same box for Alec Boehm that you do for, Edmundo Sosa. Like, Alec Boehm,
adjust it like the video game, Mike. MLB The Show, they adjust the box when you're playing the game. They adjust it by the height of the batter.
Yeah, I don't think the TV station that has the graphic is adjusting the box, and it makes the umpire look foolish sometimes because that box, I don't think, is adjusted for the guy who's up to bat. So, no, I think the box you can do without. I like it on the replay. Hey, let's see if that was a ball or strike. And look, that's how fast they can get it done and switch it if it's so egregious. Sometimes it's just so egregious. Get it right. Fix the damn thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is going to be interesting over the next couple of years as Rob Manfred kind of winds down his contract as the commissioner. I believe 2029 will be his last year. Let's see how many more changes he'll make to the game. Robot umps could be coming down the line at some point. Just won't happen next year. All right. Nugget number 3, let's move along, switch gears to basketball. We had another Sixers report out there, Mike. They're just flying off the shelves right now with all these rumors with the 76ers. Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports reporting that the Sixers could be interested in a number of different superstars, players around the league, trades, etc. But the one thing that he mentioned in an article on Yahoo today was that, quote, the Sixers are willing to spend future money and sacrifice draft capital, league sources told Yahoo Sports, in the name of chasing next year's title. So they are going for it next year. They're willing to give up whatever they need to do. I guess they don't even mind going into the second apron over the next couple of years, into the luxury tax to pay that to do what they need to do this year heading into next year. We know how much Daryl Morey loves stars. You've heard reported Paul George, obviously. Klay Thompson's name's been thrown out there. Zach LaVine, a name has been out there for years and years and years. It seems like the Sixers are in on everybody because of what we talked about, Mike, the cap space that they have. They have the most money to spend.
You're going to hear their name attached to everybody who's available because they have the most money and they have the assets. They have those trade pieces, those picks that they got in the James Harden deal. You look back at that James Harden deal and say, all right, you didn't, advance. They didn't advance, but you got the pieces that can help you get somebody else now. And that's a big piece that you have. It also cleared up cap space because all the guys you got in that trade, they're all off the books now. So if you still had James Harden here, now he would be a free agent. I think he's a free agent again, obviously, but you would be going through this mess again. So that trade ends up helping you out. You get him out of here. You clear off the books and you got those trade pieces. So yes, they're going to be attached. I saw the Donovan Mitchell stuff. I think he would be an interesting guy. With Donovan Mitchell, now he has to be traded for. He's going to be one of these situations where he might ask for more money. They might say no, and then, okay, you got to trade me then. I don't want to be here. His name has been keeping up. There's been mixed signals. Does he want to stay there? Does he like Cleveland? Can him and Miles play together? I mean, you got all this stuff happening out, or Garland, excuse me. You got all this stuff happening out there in Cleveland to keep an eye on. But Jake Fisher's been on our show a lot, local guy, does a good job. So I wouldn't doubt that any name of value is going to be attached to the Sixers because of the assets and the money they have. So everyone's going to use the Sixers either as a pawn in the game or realistically. We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. OG Anunoby, another name that you heard around early on in the season, the Sixers could have traded for. Obviously, he got traded to the Knicks. He's a free agent this year. There's a lot of rumors that he could opt out and become a free agent. Sixers could target him and then sign some other pieces as well and target other guys to go after and use those draft picks to make trades for other pieces to put around Embiid and Maxey. We'll see how it shakes out. I mean, Jake Fisher, a very respected reporter, has been very accurate in the past and especially locked in on the Sixers. This is definitely something to watch for as I can't wait for the summer to get here. We still got some playoff games to play, the finals to play, but the Sixers, man, it's going to be the drama-filled Sixers. It just never ends. It's a soap opera that continues on again, a year after year after year. And Daryl Morey's at the forefront this year. The clock is ticking for him.
Yep, it is ticking. I agree with that. I think he's done a good job. He's been limited by some of the restrictions, but now it's time to earn the cashola, baby. Got to start making some big moves here because you've now untangled the web, and now you have assets, you have money. The problem is, I don't want to make excuses for Morey. It's not a great free agent class. You got money. Yeah. It's not a lot. It's like you gave me $1,000 and said, go to the dollar store. Go spend it.
Yeah, exactly. Go to the dollar store, get the cheapest thing you could possibly get. I will see what this free agent
it's like I got all
brings.
this money, but you send me to a place and nothing's worth buying.
Yeah, we're going off the dollar menu right now instead of going to a 5-star restaurant, Mike. We're getting off the dollar menu. We're getting the nuggets from the dollar menu instead of the 5-star chicken tenders at a nice restaurant.
Unbelievable.
All right, Mike. That was nugget number 3. 3-pack for you today.
All right, 3-pack of nuggets from Nick Earnshaw. It's Nick's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash. Check out his podcast. It's called The Shift. And Saturdays in the Locker Room with Billy Schweim right here, 10 to noon on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Nick, we'll talk to you on Happy Hour Friday.
Sounds good, Mike. New episode of The Shift out on all platforms right now as well.
Check it out. All right. It's the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and of course, streaming live here on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive. Phil's win. First place, Phil's. 6.5 up on the Braves. 37-14. They've won 6 in a row, 9 out of 10, 7 series sweeps this year. Good time to be a Phillies fan. Our buddy Jeff chimes in. He says, fun day at the ballpark. Nice sweep by the Phils, but there was no need for a rain delay. And the traffic back to Ocean City is nonsense. Hey, Jeff, Ocean City. That's what happens when you get a good baseball team. The park's full. You get more traffic. Looked like you had a nice view there, Jeff. Thanks for the picture that you sent in to the Sports Bash. We got Big Three next hour, OTAs, Eagle stuff. Good stuff this hour from Andrew DeCecco and, of course, Nick's Nuggets. Always here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app powered by First Bank.
Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. I'm Mike Gill, taking you till the top of the hour tonight. Big Three coming up. Phil's win 5-2 over the Rangers. They get a home run from Real Muto. They get a home run from Castellanos and a triple from Pache. Win for Wheeler, save for Hoffman. Phil's win again. It's been unbelievable. 37-14, 6 in a row, 9 out of 10, 6.5 games up on the Braves in the National League East now. I think the Braves, let's see, the Braves they won already today. So they beat the Cubs 3-0. And we'll keep our eyes on this race throughout the summer as we hit Memorial Day weekend. A lot of the time, look, the Phillies are making the playoffs, okay? Something catastrophic would have to happen for the Phillies to not make the playoffs. But that's a look at the Phils. We also had OTAs this week, a couple days of OTAs. We'll discuss a little bit more about what goes into OTAs, what's it mean for all the players. We'll do that with former NFL tight end Colin Thompson, host of the Colin Thompson Show on Not For Long Media, former Carolina Panther. And, of course, you hear him right here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, as we joined by Colin Thompson. Overall, good guy, my man Colin Thompson. What's going on, man?
What's up, Mike? Always great to be on your show. People are piling down the Jersey Shore. It's that time of year where the locals complain about traffic in grocery stores, but that's why everyone's houses are worth so much money. So it's a give and take.
Give us another 48 hours, can we? Or no, is it already starting up? You're not down here, right?
I am not yet, but it has not started up. It definitely has. I've talked to a few people on their way down. So, people are working remote now. That type of world has taken over a bit, as you know. So you're remote. You're at a wonderful casino today, Mike.
No, not today. I'm in the studio today, but I was out not too long ago on a Thursday. I was at Ocean, as we always are at the Ocean Casino Resort Studios, but we did our draft show there at Top Golf, and it was packed that day, by the way. I can't believe it was a month ago that draft was. Holy mackerel. But with that, Colin Thompson, that means the OTAs are underway, and you have gone through these OTAs, and I think it's a unique perspective from someone who's been through OTAs. What exactly happens at these things? What are these guys doing? How important are they? And what can be learned from the coaching staff about players right now? And can players, I don't want to say win a job or win, something, but how do the players get right? I know I just threw a lot at you here, but kind of an overview of a player's perspective on OTA.
Yeah, I will try to unpack it the best way I can, Mike. So I'll take your first question. What is it? So what happens is collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, between the players, the owners, the whole kit caboodle that's always negotiated. These have changed over the years. I remember Mark Sanchez telling me stories about when he was a rookie with the Jets. They got drafted, and they were doing live in-pad drills in April. And they made Mark Sanchez live against, like, Bart Scott, Jason Taylor, and the Jets defense. And Mark being like, Colin, you don't understand. This was in April. Now you're in helmets, if anything. There's no shoulder pads. It's really changed. It's really for skill development, strength and conditioning. My issue with it is it's not enough time. So you're training the off-season, 2-3 hour workouts a day, maybe 4 hours, maybe a rehab, stint here, maybe yoga there. You're working 6 hours a day. But when you go into these NFL facilities, it's only 4 hours you're allowed to be in them for the bulk of it, 4 days a week. So Monday through Thursday, usually it's like 9 to 1, and you're there all day, and you meet, you watch film, you lift and run. And then the next phase after 2 weeks is you meet, watch film, lift, and then practice. And then the next 2 weeks come by, which you're hitting now is OTAs, which will be, it starts with a 45-minute practice. Then it's worked its way all the way up to 2 hours, right? It's all sanctioned by the CBA protecting players, so clubs can't wear players down in April and May. So it's a build-up, Mike, and it's all laid out. And then you have the veteran mini camp that is mandatory for players to get to. And it's no big deal if these guys don't show up to it, especially if you're a really big-time player. If you're a guy like me, Mike, you had to be there every single day. I never missed a day in my tenure of an OTA-type player. I've probably been a part of 6 or 7 of them, as well as rookie mini camps. They're really beneficial for guys like myself and guys on the bottom of the roster trying to impress coaches and continue to let coaches give you reps in training camp. Which people don't understand is, yeah, you're third on the depth chart, but you may only get 4 reps of practice. That's it. You got 4 reps to prove that you're meant to be on this football club. And that's really, really hard. What you see is when there's injuries, you see guys get opportunities and take advantage of them. And, of course, the 2s and the 3s on the depth chart are playing in those preseason games. So that's the give and the take. So a lot to unpack there, but yes, you can move the depth chart. Yes, you can get better. There's some limitations, though. The amount of time you're in the building, I hated it. I thought it was too short. You felt everything was very rushed instead of take our time and actually get better at times. So every team does it a little differently, but they're a great time of year to get back in the building and get around the teammates.
Yeah, and one of the things, like, you know, I always talk about, like, people say, it's OTA, don't put a lot of stock into it, you know, what, like, how the depth chart looks, and that might be true, but what I think, and I want to see if you agree, is, you know, Colin Thompson, you're in my training camp, you're in my OTA, I don't know much about you, I'm a coach, and you're just doing something. You might not have been on my radar, and now I'm like, you know what? When we get to training camp, I want to make sure I pay more attention to this guy. Like, you can try to catch someone's eye so that the next benchmark, OTA to training camp, you are now someone who's a little bit more on that staff's radar than you were when you entered OTA.
I'll give you a perfect example, Mike, and you're 100% right. When I was with the Carolina Panthers during the COVID season, we were virtual. I was virtually coaching in Cape May, Lower Cape May Regional, still am. And I was taking iPad OTAs with the Panthers. And we would meet, 2-3 hours a day, a couple days a week, right? And Joe Brady was our offensive coordinator, had no idea who I was. A couple scouts wanted me there. Coach Rule wanted me there. A couple staff members wanted me there. That's how I got to Carolina out of the XFL. I get cut at the end of training camp. We'll fast forward, but they re-signed me the next day to the roster. So roster movement opened up spots for me to join. And Joe Brady said to me, the OC, 2 years ago, before that, he won the national championship at LSU, offensive coordinator Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Allaire, the running back from Kansas City, really good teams, right? He said to me, I had no idea who you were, and we met virtually, and your involvement in the virtual OTAs during COVID and how you did on the take-home tests and the quizzes they would quiz us on, right, to challenge us on the playbook, really turned a kind of an eye to say, I'm going to watch this guy a little bit more in training camp. That's not even my physical tools, Mike, which at the end of the day has a lot to do with you making the team, but really the mental side has almost everything to do with it. I'll be honest with you. I'll contradict what I just said. So that's an example of Joe Brady, who I never met, and I met virtually, and he was impressed how I conducted myself on those virtual meetings. And when I had the opportunity to go, I kind of reassured what people that were fans of me thought of me, but also was a little bit easier to win him over.
Colin Thompson, NFL free agent tight end, former Carolina Panthers tight end, host of the Colin Thompson Show on Not For Long Media. As the Eagles at OTAs, some Eagles news real quick. They signed John Ross, he of which ran a 4.240 at the Combine back in 2017. That's because Devontae Parker retired. They had a spot open, so they did sign John Ross today. So there's something that he was at rookie mini camp last week and was able to catch someone's eye there. Now, I know he's a little different circumstance. He's a veteran player who had a little bit of a track record, but it showed, hey, I just walked in. It's like Willie Mays Hayes showing up to Major League camp and just saying, hey, take a look at me. He got signed from rookie OTAs 2 weeks ago.
Yep. I've been in many of those rookie mini camps. I probably host a record. That's not a record to be proud of, too, by the way, Mike. I've probably been in one in Detroit, one in New Orleans, 2 with the Giants, 2 with the Bears, 1 in Carolina. I've been in a lot of them because you have to get a credited season in the NFL to avoid those rookie mini camps unless you're a veteran exempt type of guy like John Ross is. So they bring him in. I'll be honest, Mike. Wish Devontae Parker nothing but the best in retirement. He was a really good player in Miami. and stuff went a little sideways maybe in New England last year. I talked to a couple of my buddies in the NFL that I asked, hey, what happened last year in New England? And they just said he's probably going to be better with a new, new scenery, if you will. It doesn't mean he had a bad year. So I was excited to see him be like the third, fourth guy, kind of like Julio was last year, because he's a pretty good player, and he's still got tread on the tires. He's not like Julio, who's much older and more worn down because of all those reps.
Right.
But John Ross, everybody gets hung up on the 40 and really excited about that. He's a veteran. He'll be a good depth piece. My question is, if you're third and fourth receiver, everybody wants these depth, but can that guy play on special teams? Especially now with the new kickoff return rules, balls are going to be returned now more than ever. It's not kicked out the back of the end zone anymore, where they just say, hey, we don't care who's on the team. We want linebackers for punt coverage because that's very important, and punt return. But other than that, it wasn't relative. Now these bottom of the roster guys are going to be very relative now because kickoff return. So good luck to John. Congrats making it in the rookie minicamp, the grind. Those are not fun. Like, all the rookies are going 1,000 miles an hour, and you're the veteran playing football kind of the right way. And these rookies in the walkthroughs are like taking your head off. So it's a crazy world in those rookie mini camps, and congrats to him for signing.
All right, couple things. The Eagles have 2 new coordinators. So are these OTAs a little bit more impactful and important because of that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So offensively, I could talk on that. I mean, obviously defensively, terminology, they have to get used to that. But it's probably the same terminology because Sean Desai is the same guy, terminology-wise, as Vic Fangio. So it's the same system. So defensively, they're probably so happy because usually when you have a new coordinator, you got to learn everything all over. So defense will be fine, term-wise, right? And then offensively, it's absolutely massive. Like, you're breaking that huddle, thinking you learned how to speak Spanish last year, and now you're, breaking the huddle and you're speaking a whole different language again. So you have to take things from the previous regime, tie it to the new thing. You may take something from college and tie it to what you're doing here. You're finding any way, Mike, to help you play fast and show the coaches, I know the offense. And you could fake it till you make it. I would write stuff on my arms, my gloves. I had so much word association. And I wish I had all this stuff when I was, like, younger. I didn't learn how to teach myself, right, how to, like, study, really, like, even academically. Until I was in the NFL, I was forced to learn the playbook or I was going to get cut. So, for these guys right now, it's a huge time offensively. It's a massive time for Jalen Hurts. Kellen Moore, first off, was one of the better college football quarterbacks ever. So this isn't some, football guy that never played the position. This is a guy who's going to give him peace of mind. Played in the NFL for a little bit. I think Jalen has a huge year. I've said on your show before, I think it has massive impact on Saquon Barkley, all the key players he's going to be with. So I think Saquon's an MVP, dark horse, not talked about enough. Same with Jalen again. So, excited for the team this year just because I'm excited to see what Kellen Moore's going to do. Are they going to be under center more? Are they going to be play action pass? That's what I would do a little bit more with Jalen. He's a little bit more polished now at quarterback. I don't want to see as much gun, but you still got to involve the RPOs and like.
All right, I want to get your take then. Do you make a big deal? This is an interesting situation, Colin, because James Bradberry, we know he didn't have a great year. A lot of talk. They drafted a corner in the first round. Then they followed up with Cooper DeJean in the second round. He is not at the OTAs. Is there a messaging there? Does a veteran player, does he just not show up because he doesn't like the way of the offseason? Do they tell him not to show up? What do you make of James Bradberry not being there?
That's interesting. Did he show up last year? That'd be my first question. Because he signed that nice ticket last year. If he didn't show up last year, then no big deal. If he didn't show up this year, I don't know. People make a big deal about this because there's not a lot to talk about. It is completely voluntary. And it's not even voluntary like wink, wink, show up. It's like, hey, it's voluntary.
Yeah.
You will not be punished if you don't show up. But it hurts you, right? Because other guys are getting reps. And can he be trusted? The other thing, too, is the business side of this. And that's the number one thing in Philly is the cap. Right? Like, how can they afford all these players? So they can't cut Bradberry unless there's a big dead cap hit, I believe, Mike. So I think that, Slay, Bradberry, and the 2 first-round picks, that's a pretty good mix at corner. You're not going to find a probably better room with that in the NFL, maybe some other places, maybe. But they went from, like, the worst room in the league to the best room because however it works out, even if Bradberry plays better, say he's your number 2 or 3, then you got, the high-end pick and the first-round pick, second-round pick. You got a pretty good player, too, that people thought he was the number 1 corner. So, I don't know. To me, it went from a position of weakness to probably one of their top most depth positions on the team, which excites me if I'm an Eagles fan.
Right. I mean, yeah, I was talking about this the other day is, okay, everybody keeps talking about Cooper DeJean, and is he a corner? Are they going to play him at safety? Is he going to get nickel? And I'm like, well, if Bradbury's here, is Bradbury automatically, the starting corner? Or do they draft a guy, Quinyon Mitchell, because they want him to be the starter? And if that's the case, Cooper DeJean is now like the third guy at outside corner. So it's like, where do you see Vic Fangio kind of using him on the field? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we had some really good players when I was in Chicago. He had some nickel corners, some slot guys, going out there and coming in for the Sam linebacker on those passing downs that were really good, really tough, really good. I think it was Bryce Callahan, and there was one other kid at FAU. I just remember them being very savvy, very tough, smaller, so they're physical, but they're not killing you. So to me, Mike, it's okay to have multiple. They're going to find a place. It's all matchups, right? Like, if there's a really good slot receiver and they think Slay wants to play man-to-man on him, they may move him out there and move someone there. So it's all matchups. How can you put your players in the best positions to have success? And the more players you can have that have depth, that's why I like the position. Like, hey, man, it's good that the Eagles fans and media and team is stressing over who your starters are, because you're going to have two guys behind them that have played at a high level. Either they're younger, they're older, right? They have a lot of options there. And then, of course, they're bounded by contract in a lot of these things. A lot of people are saying trade Bradbury or trade this guy, but okay, well, A, who are you going to get to replace him? And then B, is that a dead cap it? And what are you getting in return?
All right, that'll be an interesting storyline as we move forward here. You've talked about, you played for Vic Fangio. There's been, a lot of the Miami guys kind of taking some swings at Vic Fangio, man. It sounds like they didn't enjoy playing for him. They're like, oh, it's nice to have a coordinator who talks to us and stuff. So I guess that's just like everybody's different. Everybody's personality is different. You're not going to get 53 guys all liking, everybody.
Mike, I've gone on vacation and had beers with some coaches before on a consistent basis. And those people in Cape May are listening right now, and people in Key West, they know who those couple individuals are. And I've literally worked with guys for 4 years, and Mr. Personality myself, I could talk to a wall. I've maybe said 20 words to him. I tried to talk to Vic. The only way I connected with Vic was about the local Italian restaurant, and that was the rabbit hole I kept going down with him, because there was this little Italian restaurant in a little kind of old school Main Street, looked like Washington Street Mall in Cape May kind of vibe, and it was a deli in the front, and at night through the back door the guy would open a restaurant up. There was only 10 seats. It was BYO, and I would go there on Thursday nights, and the coaches would be in there before us, and myself and a couple guys would go in and eat, and Vic loved that, and that's how I connected with them. So, listen, there's going to be ways to connect with Vic. He's already talking about cheesesteaks. The guys are just going to have to find it, right? Everybody has their thing, but, it's just like any workplace. You're going to have people you talk to all the time and you go on vacation with, and
you could talk about, you could probably speak on this, and I don't think this is like throwing guys out under the bus, but it feels like some guys want the coach to be their friend and other guys want the coach to coach them hard. It's just a different personality. Like, Javon Holland, who's a safety, he said, a complete 180, that Anthony Weaver's a good person, and that makes a difference. I mean, he's taking a shot basically saying he thought the guy was a bad guy in Fangio.
Yeah, you never know what happens, Mike. Like, that's every facility, right? Everybody, you never know, right? A player could feel like they cut somebody who shouldn't have felt to been cut, right? Or, there's so many things interwoven when it comes to the business side of sports and for these players. So, like, did he cut his best friend? Or did he say something to him one day and he was having a bad day? Or, right? It's just like anything in life. So who knows? I don't know. Vic was good to me. He's quiet, though. He is quiet, that's for sure. And, he's completely opposite of Nick Sirianni. I'll leave it at that, personality-wise.
All right, Colin Thompson, we know Memorial Day weekend's here, man. So you got to tell the people a couple Memorial Day weekend stops that are must-makes as we kick off the summertime here. The summer is about ready to start at the shore. Where are we rocking? Where are we rolling?
Well, I'm all Cape May, Mike, and that's no secret here. That's my spot. There's a couple good spots outside of Cape May. Wildwood Crest, not too far away. Went there the other day for breakfast. Turtle Gut. Right there on the back bay, a really good spot. Cape May, though, we love Lobster House. Mayors is a great, great spot. Seaview Inn, that's your go-to Philly sports bar, dive bar, great camaraderie, cheers, if you will. Mad Batter, Sunday brunch, and just brunch in general is awesome. Taco Caballito on the beach, a great new place down there in Cape May. Congress Hall is always a great place to walk around and grab a drink and hang out. Let's see, there's a bunch of them. Harry's is awesome. Washington Street Mall for all your shopping. And then the original Fudge Kitchen's right there, too. One on the beach, one there. They have them a couple in Ocean City. So there's a bunch of spots, Mike. I'm a Cape May guy. I like how year-round Cape May is. I coach football down there with those guys, and it's a great community. Collier's Liquor Store, another great spot to go to. Pick up your booze on your way, kind of right in the heart of town right there. So just some great people in that town that live there year-round, that work there, what's off. And I love living there. I love visiting there. And there's just so many great places to eat and drink down there. You're looking for like a hoagie or a cheesesteak. West Side in West Cape May is a great little spot, too. So you can't beat it, Mike. Jersey, this is the time of year, right?
This is it, man. Yeah, on Friday's show, I do my annual Friday before Memorial Day where I kind of start in Brigantine and make my way down all the way to Cape May, giving the people on our happy hour Friday a place to stop in, get a little brewski, get a little sandwich, get a little bite. But the summer starts now, and we're looking forward to it. It seems like it rushed up on us here. Like, it is May 23rd, and we are at Memorial Day weekend already. It's too early, it feels like,
I like it, Mike. There's never enough summer, never enough getting people down there, spending money, having fun. Another place to check out, too, looking for a place on the water. You can't beat, Harpoons on the Bay there, and North Cape May's nice, and then you got the Lobster House, the Schooner right behind that. It's great, Mike. This time of year is so fun. And what makes it fun, too, is this Phillies team being really good, really strong.
Well, that's the big thing. We were talking about this earlier. Like this, I thought Rob Thompson gave a great answer last night when he said he was asked about the Mariners team that won 116, and his answer was, well, they didn't win anything. What do I care if we break that right? We didn't win anything. Like, he's got such the perfect temperament to
Billy loved it, Mike. Billy loved it. That's our guy. Mike, I met him bartending, quote unquote. I'm the worst. I'm a Z-list celebrity, but I was invited to bartend the Darren Dalton, the Dutch Dalton Foundation, a really cool foundation, Clearwater, Florida, right at the beginning of spring training. If you're down there, folks listening, go to this event. I think it's like $100, all you can eat and drink, and it goes to the Dutch Dalton Foundation, and all the coaches, the GMs, the former Phillies, we're all bartending together, like all right there, shoulder to shoulder. And Comfer came in. Coach, what can I get you behind the bar? I'll do a Miller Lite. What are you drinking? I'm like, I'll drink whatever. So we were sitting there, BSing. My dad was sitting there too, and just talking to him. Couldn't be a more down-to-earth, nice guy. I was telling him NFL free agent. He's like, listen, I got connections in the NFL too. You need something, let me know. Get my number from this and this person. Just like a normal guy. Normal is normal. I know people love that, especially in Philly. But you want to talk about relatable? That guy's really relatable, and that team loves playing for him, and it's fun to watch. And listen, they're going to go through a quiet period, and that's okay. But no better fan base, no better head coach, manager to pull them out of it.
All right, well, Colin Thompson, it is Memorial Day weekend. It is OTAs. We got Phillies baseball. It's a great time. The Phils are playing great. The OTAs are here, and the summer is here. And Colin Thompson was kind enough to spend some time with us right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, buddy, we'll talk to you soon.
Enjoy the long weekend, pal. Talk soon.
We will do so, and we appreciate Colin, as always, jumping on board here. You heard all the Cape May spots he wants to hit. We'll do the whole Kate and Caboodle tomorrow on a happy hour Friday here on the Sports Bash. We'll go from our favorite Brigantine all the way through Atlantic City, Ventnor Margate. I don't know that Longport has any spot that, is there anything open in Longport anymore? Did they have that one little commercial area in Longport? I don't know if there's anything currently there. We'll go over the bridge to Ocean City, Summers Point, Strathmere, Sea Isle, Avalon, Stone Harbor, over the bridge again, over into the Wildwoods, back over the bridge again into Cape May. We'll hit a couple things on the offshore. We do that every happy hour Friday for Memorial Day weekend, as everybody's going to be down tomorrow. It's ready for the summer. We're ready to do it, and we're ready for the big three. It's coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle, and of course, live video streaming on the X platform at 973ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive to watch the show. Back with the Big Three coming up next.
Where I grew up looks a lot like rural places that I work in now. When I was getting out of the military, I wanted to continue serving, and this role helps me to do that. Working with farmers and landowners on renewable energy projects isn't just a job. These projects create economic opportunity and help make our country more secure. This is a life-changing opportunity for the landowners and their community. It's really exciting to make an impact like that.
Fuel for Thought, presented by the American Clean Power Association.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
.532 on a Thursday. Sports Bash. Bills win. They sweep the Rangers. They sweep out the World Series champions. By the way, the World Series champion Rangers have fallen to 24-27. 3 games under 500. In a league full of bad baseball. They've been bad this year. They've lost 4 in a row, 8 out of 10. Remember the closer they had last year, Leclerc? He was their guy. Yeah, his ERA is like 7 now.
Yeah.
Not good.
No buenos in there.
Not good at all. Let's get into today's Big Three.
Mike, I want to start with a little exercise with you here because you and I kind of talked about this for a hot second before we came on the show today, but last night the All-NBA teams were announced, and Tyrese Maxey was not on any of the 3. So I want to go through who made the teams, and you tell me if you think fair or unfair. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, I will say this. As much as a fan, you want Maxey to get recognized, as a team, you're probably happy that he didn't, because you saved probably near $10 million a year on having to pay him.
Yeah, roughly that. Yeah, because Bobby Marks was saying when he came on with you a couple weeks ago, Mike, that Maxey, if he makes one of these teams, that contract value goes up almost double by the overall value.
Yeah, so. I know. I think if he would have got if he made an All-NBA team, he would have been able to make about $42 million, something to that effect. If he by not getting it, here it is. No All-NBA for Max is from Kyle Neubeck from PHLY. So the max for him this summer starts at $35.5 million. If he would have been on an All-NBA team, 42.6 would have been where the number would have been. Yeah. So he lost like $7 million.
Still significant.
No doubt.
Because guess what? You can spend that $7 million now on maybe another role player or maybe another player.
Well,
who can help
as
his team.
Neubeck pointed out, it doesn't impact how they would have operated this summer. It just would have been more of a long-term thing, like by having him making that much more money somewhere down the road.
Right.
But it wouldn't have impacted them a lot for this offseason.
Gotcha. Well, here's the first NBA team. And like I said, let's play fair or unfair. Okay, Mike? So the first NBA team with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum.
Giannis is interesting. I mean, he wasn't he missed time late in the year, so I guess I'm thinking about that. He had a good year. I mean, he was like in the MVP conversation for most of the year.
Right.
Luka, SGA, Tatum, Jokic. No, I don't have a big problem with any of those guys.
All right, your second NBA All-NBA team. Jalen Brunson, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi, I don't think deserved to be on that team, I would think, right?
That's the most glaring one to me. But I think you could also make an argument that maybe Anthony Davis, because he missed games this year as well with injuries, should he have been second?
Well, you have to be 65 games at least, right?
You have to be a minimum of 65 games, correct. But still, you can play 66 games and still get
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Davis did lead the league in rebounds. I mean,
he did.
So he had a pretty solid, he was the... he also was fifth in the league in blocks.
So you're okay with AD, but you're saying Kawhi given the side eye.
I'm actually surprised Kawhi played 65 games. I'm a little surprised that he made the team because of that. I mean, he had a good solid year, 23.6 rebounds. I mean, he didn't have a jump off the page here, in my mind anyway. I would think Maxey had a better year than he had.
I'm pulling up exactly how many games.
Maxey was fifth
Kawhi
in the league
played.
in scoring. He almost averaged 30 points a
Kawhi
game.
played 68 games, surprisingly.
Yeah, Maxey almost scored 30 points a game. I mean, it's hard to convince somebody that you weren't one of the best 15 players in the league. But at the position.
Right, at the position. Third NBA team, I think, is where the debate can arise here. Because you have Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Tyrese Halliburton, LeBron James, Domantas Sabonis. So if you wanted to put Maxey on the third All-NBA team, who you taking off?
Booker. He had a better year than Booker.
I agree.
Who else was the other guard?
Curry.
Probably had a better year than Curry, quite frankly.
There's actually 3 guards on the third NBA team.
And who's the other one?
Halliburton, but he deserves it.
Yeah, Halliburton had a strong year. I mean, scoring-wise, Maxey had a better year than all of them.
Oh, he did, absolutely. But if we're going on more than just scoring...
Who are the forwards?
Well, there's the quote-unquote forward is LeBron James, and the other one is Domantas Sabonis.
I probably would have gone with Banchero over Sabonis. I like Sabonis a lot, but I think Paolo had an unbelievable year. He took that team to the playoffs. They were a top 5 seed.
Yes, they were.
So I thought he had a really good year. He probably could have been in play. He averaged 27 points a game. I mean, I don't think Sabonis was anywhere near that.
No, I think Sabonis and Kawhi both got votes because they're Sabonis and Kawhi at this point.
And by the way, Paolo averaged almost 10 rebounds. He had 9 rebounds a night.
Paolo had a monster year.
Yeah, he would be an egregious leave-off to me of that group there. Listen,
I selfishly am very aware of Paolo because I came in second place in my fantasy basketball league because the other guy had Paolo. Those last couple of weeks of the year because, the championship was a combined last 2 weeks of the season. And,
did you say Brunson, by the way?
Brunson was on the second team.
Okay. Deserving.
Yeah, they're definitely deserving. So you would have taken Booker off for Maxey.
I would say for this year, I think Booker had Maxey had a better year than Booker.
Got it.
I would say Brunson's fair. SGA is fair.
You said Kawhi was...
Yeah, that's flimsy.
And then you would have put Paolo Banchero on instead of Sabonis.
Yeah, I would say if I'm taking Kawhi off, someone's going to... I mean, you can make a strong argument that Banchero belonged on the second team then.
You could. Put him in instead of Kawhi.
Over Kawhi, absolutely. Yeah. I would say Paolo Banchero had a better year than Kawhi Leonard had. I don't have a problem with that.
I can easily go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, for my second story, I wanted to get to... So Charles Barkley has been making the rounds today with the media, and he's been making some strong comments about the situation with the Inside the NBA show. The quotes I'm going to be giving you are from, he was on the Dan Patrick show earlier today, Mike, and he tells Dan Patrick, morale sucks, plain and simple, for the Inside the NBA guys. He went on to say, these people I work with, they really screwed this thing up, clearly. We don't have zero idea what's happening. There's no communication. I don't feel good. I'm not going to lie to you, he tells the Dan Patrick show. Barkley also went on to blame the executives at TNT and Turner Sports for, quote, ruining a good thing. Mike, your thoughts on Barkley being so open about this?
Good for him. I mean, look, what are they going to do to Charles Barkley? Seriously. And he's not wrong. David Zaslav, the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, completely botched the whole situation.
Yep.
He said it wasn't important that they got the NBA back. Well, then he had to backtrack and try to reconvince them to come back. And by that point, I think the NBA said, all right, we're ready to move on from you. It's not a surprise, right? It's not a surprise that this, somebody from a corporate situation bungled something. I mean, so it sucks that the thing is ending like this. You are kind of nostalgic to having the NBA on NBC back, but you're going to miss that show. There's no question about it. The NBA will be a lesser product without that show.
Also, Barkley went on to say that he told Dan Patrick he is angry and that he feels bad for the people he works with. He said, quote, "These people behind the scenes have families. I just feel really bad for them right now."
No question. I mean, this happens in all the situations when stuff like this happens. We never think about the cameramen, the producers, all that stuff. And look, Charles Barkley can get another job if he wants one, or he doesn't need one.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So he doesn't have to get another job, but some of those cameramen, producer, and all that stuff won't be able to get it done. Listen, for whatever reason, the NBA felt that they were in better hands going to NBC, and we'll see. I mean, nobody is going to be able to put a show together that is comparable to that.
No.
ESPN has tried. I don't know if they're trying to put together a comparable show, but the shows they're putting together are not on the same level.
No, and I think ESPN has, to me, one major problem compared to inside the NBA, and that is one of the reasons, at least for me, Mike, why inside the NBA is so great is because you know consistently who's on that desk every Thursday. You know it's Shaq, it's Kenny, it's Chuck, it's Ernie. The changing casts for the ESPN table, it's been documented. They've had a lot of people come in and out of that desk. They have never had a chance to legitimately build any chemistry. So to me, I think one of the problems with ESPN, you tell me what you think, is that I think when I look at it, I'm like, I tune in sometimes, and for a couple of years it was Greeny. Now it's Malika Andrews. They've had Kendrick Perkins on the desk. They've had Bob Myers on the desk. They've had Wilbon there sometimes. Sometimes Stephen A. Smith is not there. And that changing cast, I don't know if that's good for building TV chemistry.
Obviously, it hasn't been. They keep changing it. But I would say, I don't know that that's hurts or help. I mean, they got the package back. You know what I'm saying? So they're back. And
sure.
Yeah.
My third story is a little more of a tongue-in-cheek story here for you. So I don't know if you heard, but Antonio Brown has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. At 35 years old, Antonio Brown owes nearly $3 million to 8 different creditors, according to court records for the U.S. Bankruptcy Court. Brown, who made more than $80 million his NFL career, has now an estimated $50,000 or less to his name after making $80 million in the NFL. Apparently, the largest credit owed is $1.2 million that he is owed to a truck driver who he was charged with assault and battery of from a 2022 incident. All the other debts are including money that are owed through other court judgments as well. The current bankruptcy filing does not account for the other collections money that he is owing.
No surprise. Complete idiot. I know somebody, a buddy of mine is a guy who owned the Albany Arena Football League team and got into a whole mess of things with Antonio Brown. We were at the Super Bowl because he works for a radio station up in Albany, so we were having dinner one night after one of our shows, and he told me the whole situation about him and Antonio Brown and how much of a mess it was. And hearing these stories, not surprising at all that Antonio completely out of money, and this, these things we see all the time.
By the way, the one part that does make me chuckle a little bit with this story is that, according to The Athletic, one of the arguments that Brown has for his bankruptcy is that he is currently settling so many lawsuits, he doesn't have the money to pay off the other debts.
And this is the thing is, I'm getting sued from every angle, so quit coming after me.
Right, exactly.
You see this a lot, we've seen it in that's Atlantic City. I mean, that's a story of Atlantic City. Those casinos are built with people who never got paid for the most part. There's another story out there now about the water park over there. I guess they're getting, something going on over there. I mean, how many of those casinos did local people put their hard work into? And when the bill came, there was no money to be paid.
Yeah, very conveniently. They just got robbed blind, basically. By the way, honorable mention for the Big Three today. Cavs head coach J.B. Bickerstaff out after 5 seasons, because we all know it's Bickerstaff's fault why they didn't get out of the second round, right,
Mike? There's a big topic today in Cleveland Sports Radio about them yelling like, look, this isn't the coach's fault. They need better players.
They do.
Was pretty much the was the story with them, but they're going to get a new coach. Everybody wants to fire the coach. The firing the coach is always the fun thing to do.
It's absolutely insane. And by the way, it's not like Bickerstaff did a bad job as a coach. It's just the team ran into the Boston Celtics. Like, what are you going to do at that point? You're outgunned.
Yeah. To come to the, understanding of we lost to the Boston Celtics because of the coach is, it sounds like the same person who's making the decision at Warner Brothers Discovery.
I think they're collaborating?
Yeah. Yep. Sounds like it.
So there's my big three and my honorable mention, Mike.
All right, there you go. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Streaming live on the X platform. Video at 973 ESPN. Just follow us on X. You'll be able to watch the show there. Use the hashtag SBLive to find us. Phillies win. Big three, by the way. One of the stories that was that I saw today, I was laughing at. LeBron James' son has bets to be the top pick in the NBA. Did you see that? Oh my God. I know. I was laughing though. I said, if you're Atlanta, is there such an overwhelming number one pick, or is it better to take Bronny James so that you have a better shot to get the father for 2 years? That player is more impactful than any guy who could be the number one pick in this year's draft. No?
It's a shame that if you're the Lakers, you can't be called by Atlanta for the Lakers to draft Bronny James number one overall. And the Lakers just get the Hawks just get a bunch of picks out of it. But because the Lakers are running out of assets, it wouldn't work.
All right, 5:48. We'll get ready to wrap up the show. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash.
It's the Sports Bash. Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
All right, get ready to get out of here on a Thursday. It's the last Thursday before Memorial Day weekend. Tomorrow, we got a big fun show for you, as always, on the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. We're going to be hitting it hard with a lot of fun. Happy Hour Friday. Holy mackerel. Can you believe it? It's Memorial Day weekend. The Phils, first place. Sweep another series. 7 series sweeps for the Phillies this year. They had 7 all of last year. We gave you that today during Knicks Nuggets. Phillies sweep the World Series champion Texas Rangers. They win 5-2 today. Great stuff there. If you missed our football at 4, go back and check it out on the X platform at 973 ESPN. You can go back and watch the whole show. You can go find your favorite segment of the day. They're all up there on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Oh, boy. Tomorrow, Happy Hour Friday. Mike McGarry's here. Bob Wankel's back. Adam Caplan will be here. And we've got the Nuggets as always. Oh, boy. Enjoy the Thursday night. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. And then don't forget, we got the NBA Eastern Conference Finals tonight. The Celtics taking on the Pacers, game number 2. I think the Pacers really lost a chance. They'll probably win tonight and shut me up. But I think they probably go down in 5. They needed that game the other night. They had it. Big win by Dallas last night, by the way. Knocking off Minnesota. So the NBA playoffs have been good. A couple good games so far. No Phils tonight at the Eastern Conference Finals. We're back here tomorrow. One other thing before we roll, by the way. One other thing before we roll. I got a text in here earlier. I guess the high school baseball playoffs and everything got underway. Saw Mainland won. Why did they play at 1:30 this afternoon? Anybody know why they played so early? All right, I'm out. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Game night's up next.